Chapter 369. Long Night did not refuse any of the factions' goodwill and accepted them all. It even expressed a trace of goodwill and did not give off any killing intent, and it seemed quite gentle and easy to get along with. This caused the factions in 100 Bamboo to let out a sigh of relief. This ferocious tiger had finally calmed down, and now that they knew that Long Night would not act against them, they were not as panicked as before. Long Night was a pawn that Zhao Fu had placed in 100 Bamboo, and its main goal was to use others to achieve its goals. Of course, it could not be too domineering, or else it would not be able to use others. As such, Long Night was just a tiger in sheep's clothing. After the situation in 100 Bamboo stabilized and everything was taken care of, Zhao Fu left 100 Bamboo and returned to Qin City. After all, he had obtained a special item from the town that Sun Wu had subdued. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu found that it was a 3-meter-tall statue that seemed to be made of stone. It looked like a valiant general who wore armor and had a large saber at his waist. He held a spear and gave off a powerful aura that seemed to be able to kill enemies. General Statue. A statue of a general that has stats and can increase the spawn rate of the general profession in the starting ground. This statue's stats were quite good, and it could spawn a general profession in the starting ground. Even though Zhao Fu had many villages and could change professions to generals, the profession was easy to obtain, but the battle experience was not so easy to obtain. The generals that spawned from the starting ground all had a lot of battle experience, which was what Zhao Fu wanted. After all, he had only spawned a single general profession out of so many villages. Now that he had a general statue, he would most likely be able to spawn more generals in the future. There were 3 main sources of General Zhao Fu. One was from soldiers, the second was from subduing some, and the third was from students from the Rising Qin Academy's martial institution. The third stage was the nurturing phase. Zhao Fu picked out students who had performed well and sent them into the army to be trained and nurtured into generals. Martial arts could bring peace and stability to a country, and this was especially so during chaotic times. Generals could be of great use to the army. After looking at the attributes of the statue, Zhao Fu went to the Red Plum Plain. Now, the Red Plum Plain was the only place where he hadn't set up any chess pieces. For the future development of Qin, it was necessary to prepare for a rainy day. The Red Plum Plains was a grassland, and the ground was covered with red plums. Because of its name, the architectural style had some grassland characteristics. It had been a long time since Zhao Fu had come to Red Plum Plains, and he did not know what had happened there. After arriving at Great Ancient City, Zhao Fu remembered that this was where he had found Tuoba Qing and the others. At this time, there was a piece of news that someone from a powerful force had come to the restaurant to cause trouble and molested the waiters in the restaurant. This was an opportunity, and Zhao Fu wanted to find a target to attack. He did not need to keep a low profile. He just needed to find a faction to destroy and increase his reputation in a short period of time. He would then slowly develop and consolidate his position before working with Qin to take down Red Plum Plains. As players' cultivations increased, the 10 city guards that Zhao Fu had hired lost their intimidation effect. As the first restaurant in Red Plum Plains, business was quite good. Adding on the fact that there were many old customers and that they could not make dishes from other places, it was still quite popular. The restaurant had shown off massive benefits, but it had not shown off its strength, so it had attracted the attention of many factions. However, this time, whether it was intentional or not, this faction had been quite unlucky. After coming to the restaurant, Zhao Fu saw a slightly drunk young man forcefully holding onto a woman's hand. The restaurant was in chaos, and the 10 city guards were stopped by 20 or so people. What surprised Zhao Fu was that the woman being held was Sun Cici, Zhao Fu's classmate, and she worked as a waitress in the restaurant. Haha! Great Ancient City belongs to our Wang family, and apart from system factions, our Wang family doesn't fear anyone. It's useless even if you call for help. The drunk young man wildly laughed as he hugged Sun Cici and pressed her onto the table before forcefully kissing her. Sun Cici's face was covered with tears as she struggled, but she was unable to let the young man succeed. "Pa, The sound of a heavy slap could be heard as the young man furiously slapped Sun Cece's face, causing it to immediately swell up. Stinking bitch. If you resist me again, I'll call people to take turns on you. Now, the entrance of the restaurant was filled with people. Many people were furious, but they did not dare to make a move. After all, there were 20 or so Stage 1 experts blocking the entrance, and the 10 system guard were in a difficult position. If these 20 or so people really fought, the 10 city guards might not necessarily lose, but their chances of winning were not very high either. At the very least, there would be a few casualties. On one hand, they were the city guards responsible for protecting this place, so they could not allow such a thing to happen. On the other hand, the Wong family had a good relationship with the higher-ups, and the higher-ups had given them orders. They had to take care of the Wong family and not offend them. Pa! Another slap landed on Sun Cece's face, causing a trace of blood to flow out of her mouth. Sun Cece's face became red and swollen, and tears continuously flowed out of her eyes. She gritted her teeth and vigorously struggled, but she did not beg because she knew that the young man would not let her off. Damn it! You bitch, you dare to resist? The young man slapped Sun Cece's face again and cursed loudly. He also gave up the idea of kissing Sun Cece by force and began to tear Sun Cece's clothes. The clothes of the waiters in the restaurant were all uniform silk dresses. They looked very beautiful, but because they were made of silk, it was very easy to tear them. Very quickly, the drunken young man tore apart Sun Cece's clothes, revealing a bit of her chest. Seeing this, the drunken young man lewdly laughed, and Sun Cece continuously cried and struggled as she begged, "Save me." Hearing Sun Cece's words, the drunken young man stopped and wildly laughed as he said, "Who in great ancient city dares to stop me? Bitch, after I'm done with you, I'll have my 20 subordinates kill you." Hearing their young master's words, the 20 or so people blocking the door also revealed a trace of lewd smiles on their faces. They turned their heads to look at Sun Cece's rather good-looking face. The people around them were furious, but they did not have the strength to do anything. Some people wanted to personally see the scene between the young man and Sun Cece in broad daylight. Rip! The sound of clothes tearing could be heard as the right side of Sun Cece's clothes were torn apart. Some of the skin on her chest, as well as her full bosom, was revealed. This stimulated the young man's bestial nature even more, and he wildly laughed. The 20 or so people blocking the door also laughed lewdly. Chapter 370. Could it be that I'm going to be raped here? Sun Cece thought to herself in despair. Suddenly, a light breeze blew past, and with a chi sound, a large amount of blood splattered onto the walls. The 20 or so people standing at the entrance of the restaurant all had their heads fall off, and their corpses also slowly fell to the ground. A black-cloaked figure appeared in front of the restaurant, holding a demonic sword and giving off a cold and powerful aura. "You deserve to die." Zhao Fu waved his hand, and a formless energy sent the young man on top of Sun Cece flying. At that moment, Zhao Fu slowly walked into the restaurant and looked at Sun Cece, who was covered in tears. He walked over and took out a set of clothes and handed them to her as he asked caringly, "Are you all right?" Sun Cece looked at the person in front of her and immediately recognized that it was the owner of the restaurant that she had not seen in a long time. Sun Cece's heart, which had been filled with despair and fear, felt as if a massive weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She took the clothes and covered her exposed skin as she said gratefully, "Thank you." Following this, Sun Cece said apologetically, "I'm sorry. Boss, I've caused so much trouble for you." "It's not your fault." Zhao Fu's voice was quite cold, and a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes as he looked at the young man on the ground who was trying to get up. "Anyone who dared to humiliate me, Qin, must die." The young man, who had been somewhat drunk, immediately sobered up and looked at Zhao Fu before looking at the 20 or so headless corpses outside the restaurant. He inwardly cried out in fear, "I'm the Wong family's young master. If you dare do anything to me, you'll die a horrible death." Zhao Fu coldly laughed. "Wong family's young master? Not only will you die today, but your Wang family will also be destroyed by me." Hearing Zhao Fu's words, not only was the young man shocked, but the people watching outside were also incredibly shocked. If an ordinary person said that they would destroy the Wang family, it would be a joke. After all, the Wang family was the #1 faction in Great Ancient City, and it would be impossible to destroy the Wang family. However, they had just seen Zhao Fu kill more than 20 Stage 1 experts with a single move, and he was filled with mysteries, so there was a chance that he could do it. After all, this was Great Ancient City's #1 restaurant. There had always been rumors that this restaurant had a very deep background and was controlled by a powerful faction. It was just that this faction had never revealed itself. So many people guessed that it was fake news. When a young man heard Zhao Fu's words, he was a little afraid. He was also a little uncertain. Previously, his father had advised him not to provoke this restaurant for the time being. Suddenly, without even thinking about it, the young man ran out of the restaurant. Right now, his life was the most important thing. However, just as he was about to move, Zhao Fu waved his hand again, and the young man was slammed into the wall by an invisible force. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and at least 3 or 4 of his ribs were broken. This was the first time he had suffered such pain. The young man's face was distorted, and he roared, "When the people from my Wang family come, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. And that bitch beside you, I'll kill her right in front of you. I also want." Zhao Fu looked at the crazed young man with a cold gaze and gave up on killing him in one move. He stretched out a hand, and countless traces of black aura flowed out and wrapped around his hand. "Art!" A shrill cry rang out as the young man's body was lifted into the air by an invisible force. His arms felt as if they had been grabbed by a pair of large hands, and they were forcibly broken. Then, his legs were also grabbed by a pair of large hands, and they were slowly twisted. The young man continuously howled, and his face was twisted in pain. He couldn't even speak, and he looked incredibly wretched. "Sir, this is enough. I think it's enough. After all, this lady didn't suffer much harm." A system guard walked up and heard the young man's howls of pain and how Zhao Fu was torturing the young man. He couldn't bear to see this, and his superiors had told him to take care of the Wang family. If the Wang family's big young master was killed in front of them, they would also be punished. "Boss, I think it's fine. I'll be fine." Sun Cece had already wiped away the tears on her face, but her eyes were still red and swollen, and the 2 handprints on her face were quite obvious. She was already incredibly grateful that Zhao Fu had saved her. After staying in Great Ancient City for so long, she knew how powerful the Wang family was, and she didn't want to cause trouble for Zhao Fu because of her. This was something that she could bear by herself. Zhao Fu had taken her in to work here, and he had done her many favors. Now that she had caused trouble for Zhao Fu, Sun Cece felt incredibly guilty. Hearing the system guards and Sun Cece's words, Zhao Fu withdrew his hand, and the young man fell back to the ground. Seeing Zhao Fu release his hand, everyone let out a sigh of relief, thinking that the matter was over. The young man wildly laughed as he said, "Now you know how powerful the Wang family is, right? You're dead for sure. Someone has already notified my dad." The young man's words caused the atmosphere, which had calmed down, to once again become tense. Zhao Fu slowly turned and glanced at the city guard, causing the city guard's body to freeze. Under the black cloak, a pair of devilish, blood-red eyes could be seen. A bang sounded out as the city guard was sent flying by a formless energy, and Zhao Fu turned to look at the city guards outside. He coldly harumphed, "Piss off." These city guards had been hired by him, and not only had they not attacked before, but now they dared to ask him to spare the young man. How laughable! After what the young man had done, how could Zhao Fu spare him? The 10 city guards had never thought that Zhao Fu would attack them. After all, they represented the system main city, and most people feared them greatly. However, seeing how murderous Zhao Fu was, he was already giving face to the system main city by not killing them. As such, they didn't dare to stay here, and they picked up the injured city guard and quickly left. Everyone else also didn't dare to stay here and quickly left. The young man who had fallen to the ground started to feel afraid, but Zhao Fu didn't even look at him. He waved his hand, causing a black sword light to shoot out and pierce through the young man's head, killing him on the spot. Men. Zhao Fu stood with his hands behind his back, his voice filled with might and killing intent. Just as he spoke, a hooded figure suddenly appeared beside him and half knelt on the ground, saying, "Your Majesty, what are your orders?" Immediately head to the Wang family's residence. No matter if it's a man or a woman, old or young, kill anyone who has anything to do with the Wang family. The hooded man uttered a response before his figure flickered and vanished into thin air. Sun Cece looked at Zhao Fu, who was giving off an icy killing intent, and realized that she had underestimated Zhao Fu. He didn't even place Great Ancient City's #1 faction in his eyes and could destroy them just like that. Just how much courage and confidence did he have? Chapter 371. However, looking at Zhao Fu's back and hearing Zhao Fu's voice, Sun Cece felt that this boss was becoming more and more familiar, as if she had met him somewhere in the real world. Zhao Fu did not mind Sun Cece's expression and had her return to the real world. After all, destroying the Wang family was going to be quite troublesome, and the main source was the system main city. As such, Zhao Fu had to personally take care of this. Sun Cece understood what Zhao Fu was going to do, so she immediately left the Heaven Awakened world. Seeing Zhao Fu about to leave, Sun Cece couldn't help but say, "Boss, be careful." Zhao Fu was quite surprised to hear Sun Cece's words of concern, but he nodded and disappeared. "Sir, something big has happened. Something big has happened. Our young master has been killed." A gray-clothed elder who looked like a butler hurriedly ran into a room and called out to a dignified-looking middle-aged man. The middle-aged man frowned. Because it was not a true death, he was not too angry, nor did he feel any pain. However, he felt quite confused. His son and 20 or so Stage 1 experts had been killed in Great Ancient City. Just who would be so daring to offend the Wang family, the #1 faction in Great Ancient City? "What's going on? Explain it to me," the middle-aged man said to the elder. The gray-clothed elder told the middle-aged man everything he had heard, and after hearing this, a furious look appeared on the middle-aged man's face as he cursed, "That unfilial son." The middle-aged man wasn't angry at what the young man had done. Rather, he had long since warned him not to provoke the restaurant, but the young man hadn't believed him. Now, the Wang clan didn't fear any of the powers in Grand Ancient City. The only thing they feared was the restaurant. The restaurant had been opened by a player, and it had been opened a few months before anyone else. This meant that he had become a baron a few months before everyone else, and he had extraordinary wealth to buy property and hire system main city guards. Moreover, this restaurant had ingredients that others didn't have. These ingredients were quite ordinary, but they weren't easily obtainable because they came from other regions. Only the restaurant had the ability to cross regions, which was enough to make others feel fearful. If they wanted to go to another region, they would have to go to the Void Zone. The Void Zone was incomparably dangerous. The middle-aged man had also led a team to try it once, but unfortunately, they had failed miserably. However, that person actually said that he wanted to destroy my Wang family. That's a bit too arrogant. With the Wang family's current strength, we don't need to fear any player faction in Red Plum Plains. The middle-aged man was quite confident. After all, one of her daughters had married one of Great Ancient City's great generals, and it was with his help that the Wang family had developed so quickly. In times of need, they could even use the power of the system main cities. That restaurant had only caused the Wang family to be wary of it for a while. After such a long time, they had yet to see its true strength. "You killed my son and even threatened to destroy my Wang family. You're simply courting death. Butler, immediately gather people and call some system guards to kill everyone in that restaurant. Don't let a single one of them escape." Arg! Just as the middle-aged man gave the order, he suddenly heard pained cries from outside. Immediately, the middle-aged man was given a big fright and walked out of the door. He saw that the residence was surrounded by a gray fog, and there were flashing black figures slaughtering his people. How is this possible? The middle-aged man looked incredibly shocked. The people he had nurtured were unable to retaliate at all, and as soon as they tried to attack, their throats would be slit. What's more, those black figures all had stage 1 or above cultivations. How could so many stage 1 experts suddenly appear and attack the Wong family? Just what faction was this? Suddenly, the middle-aged man thought back to what the butler had said before. That person said that he wanted to destroy the entire Wong family, and now he really had come. Only now did the middle-aged man realize what kind of terrifying faction he was facing. Swish! An arc of light suddenly flashed, slashing towards the middle-aged man's throat. There was no warning. It was a sudden move, a fatal move. The arc of light flew over, and just as it was about to slice open his throat, the middle-aged man roared and did his best to tilt his head back, narrowly dodging the attack. However, before the middle-aged man could rejoice, a ghost-like figure appeared behind him. Another sharp, cold light flashed, and the middle-aged man felt a pain in his back as a long gash appeared. Blood flowed out of the wound. Art! The middle-aged man waved his saber and heavily slashed behind him. The saber's momentum was ferocious, but the body disappeared in an instant. Suddenly, the middle-aged man felt that something was off in the sky, and he looked up to see a figure appear above him. The figure raised its 2 silver-white hidden blades and used the momentum of its descent to slash towards the middle-aged man. Shing! The middle-aged man raised his saber and blocked this attack, and the sound of metal colliding rang out. However, another figure appeared next to the middle-aged man, and he was once again given a big fright and dodged to the side. However, his abdomen was still cut by the hidden blades, and fresh blood flowed out and seeped into his clothes. The middle-aged man found that he was being targeted by 5 people. If it was just one of them, he would have been able to deal with them, but with 5 people working together, he was not a match for them at all. Soon, there were 10 or so bloody wounds on the middle-aged man's body, and most of the Wong family's people were dead. The ground was littered with the corpses of the Wong family's people, and their blood dyed the ground red. The middle-aged man roared in grief and indignation. He knew that the Wong family was most likely going to perish, and he felt immense regret. Why did he offend such a terrifying faction? I'll definitely teach that unfilial son a lesson in the future. As the battle was about to end, more and more Qin's assassins attacked the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was unable to defend at all, and many more wounds appeared on his body. Could it be that he was going to die here? Looking at the people charging at him, the middle-aged man felt more and more powerless, and he felt a trace of despair. "Father-in-law, I'm here to save you." A thick-eyebrowed big man suddenly appeared and swung his large sword, sending out a 10-meter-long sword light that contained terrifying destructive power, forcing back the Qin's assassins. This thick-eyebrowed big man was Dongfang Xiang, one of great ancient city's generals and the Wong family's son-in-law. The dark ghost world outside could stop people with stage 1 or 2 cultivation, but could not stop people with stage 3 or above cultivation. Dongfang Xiang and his soldiers were unable to enter, so he rushed in by himself. Seeing the bloody scene, he felt quite shocked. At the same time, he saw his father-in-law being surrounded by so many people, so he immediately acted and saved the middle-aged man. Chapter 372. Clang! Dongfang Xiang swung his sword and spun in the air, sending out a sharp sword wind that sent the Qin assassins flying. However, the sword wind was blocked by the hidden blades of the Qin assassins, and they did not receive much damage. Dongfang Xiang could sense that the Qin assassins were difficult to deal with, and he turned and asked seriously, "Father-in-law, who did you offend this time? Who did you offend this time? These people who seem to be assassins are much stronger than ordinary system guards, and ordinary factions would not be able to nurture them." The middle-aged man had a bitter expression on his face as he told Dongfang Xiang about the restaurant. Dongfang Xiang understood that the restaurant was indeed extraordinary, and it had finally revealed its strength. It was truly unfathomable. "Father-in-law, I'll take you out. Right now, the Wong family's residence is separated by an extremely powerful illusion, and my people are unable to enter." The middle-aged man looked at the Wong family members who were still being slaughtered, and his expression dimmed. The Wang family was essentially destroyed, but with Dongfang Xiang's help, they still had a chance to start over. The middle-aged man nodded and agreed. Ark, seeing this, Dongfang Xiang loudly roared, and his body exploded out with a powerful aura. He raised his sword with both hands, causing it to give off a brilliant sword light as a powerful sword aura formed. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Dongfang Xiang's sword descended, sending out a massive sword wind that left a 100-meter-long gash on the ground. The intense sword wind forced back countless Qin assassins, opening up a path. Dongfang Xiang immediately grabbed the middle-aged man and ran in that direction. Dongfang Xiang's cultivation was already at stage 3, and he was incredibly fast. A black blur flashed by, and ordinary Qin assassins could not keep up at all. Just as Dongfang Xiang was about to successfully escape with the middle-aged man, a figure blocked in front of them. This person was wearing a black cloak and did not give off much of a powerful aura. He simply appeared there and did not seem to pose much of a threat. However, when Dongfang Xiang saw this person and saw the pair of blood-red eyes under the cloak, his hair stood on end. Goosebumps rose all over his body, and an incomparable sense of danger welled up in him. His body that was charging forward came to an abrupt halt, and his face turned solemn. "May I know who you are?" Zhao Fu looked at Dongfang Xiang and the middle-aged man beside him and calmly said, "Of course I'm here to destroy the entire Wang family. I advise you to mind your own business. I don't want to incur any enmity with Great Ancient City, but you need to know who you are. Don't cause trouble for Great Ancient City." After hearing what Zhao Fu had to say, Dongfang Xiang felt quite arrogant and dared to threaten his system main city. However, Dongfang Xiang completely believed that Zhao Fu had the ability to do so. He was one of the 3 great generals of Great Ancient City, so of course he didn't want to bring so much trouble to Great Ancient City. However, the middle-aged man was his father-in-law, so he had to save him. Moreover, they weren't in the right in this matter. So even if this matter was brought to the city lord, they would still be the ones suffering. "Sir, now that you've basically slaughtered the entire Wang family, everything belongs to you. I just want to take father-in-law away." Facing the incredibly dangerous cloaked figure, Dongfang Xiang's aura seemed a bit weaker, and he spoke in a negotiating tone. The middle-aged man beside him felt quite shocked. He knew how powerful Dongfang Xiang was, but facing the cloaked figure in front of him, he had to take a few steps back. Just how powerful was this black-cloaked figure? "I said that if I want to destroy the entire Wang family, I'll destroy the entire Wang family." Even though Dongfang Xiang had taken a few steps back to speak, Zhao Fu didn't appreciate it and immediately refused. After all, leaving the Wang family's leader alive would bring about a lot of trouble. He could return to the village and rely on Dongfang Xiang's power to recover in a short period of time. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Dongfang Xiang gripped his large sword. Now he could only fight. Seeing that Dongfang Xiang was preparing to fight, Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and disappeared. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu appeared in front of Dongfang Xiang. He didn't use any weapons and clenched his fist as he punched Dongfang Xiang's chest, sending him flying. Dongfang Xiang had been too confident. Before, he was a battle general, and Zhao Fu couldn't afford to offend him. However, things were completely different now. Let alone a battle general. Even the city lord himself wouldn't be afraid in front of Zhao Fu if he didn't use his city lord seal. Dongfang Xiang coughed up a mouthful of blood. He had never thought that a simple punch from Zhao Fu would be able to injure him like this. What made him even more furious was that Zhao Fu had already grabbed the middle-aged man's throat and lifted him up. The middle-aged man couldn't resist at all and could only desperately struggle. "No!" Seeing what would happen next, Dongfang Xiang furiously roared. However, Zhao Fu's cold hand twisted, and a crack sounded out as the middle-aged man's throat was snapped. The middle-aged man instantly died, and Zhao Fu released his hand, causing the middle-aged man's corpse to fall to the ground, kicking up some dust. "Ark!" Dongfang Xiang roared, his face becoming red from anger. He looked like a berserk beast as he charged at Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu stood his ground and stretched out a hand towards Dongfang Xiang. He opened his palm, and a black mark appeared on his palm. Bang! The black mark flashed with a black light, and a formless energy sent Dongfang Xiang flying like a ball, causing him to crash into a building. Dongfang Xiang coughed up a large mouthful of blood and powerlessly lay there, looking heavily injured. Zhao Fu didn't attack again, and he looked up at the sky. A bearded big man had appeared in the sky, and it was no surprise that he was Great Ancient City's city lord. Dongfang Xiang had rushed over to watch the battle, and as the city lord of the system main city, it was impossible for him not to know. "Sir, this matter ends here. I don't want to pursue it." The bearded big man looked quite coarse, but he wasn't a rash person. He didn't immediately fight with Zhao Fu just because his subordinate had been heavily injured by Zhao Fu. He sensed a trace of danger from Zhao Fu's body, and he could sense the ripples of City Lord seal within Zhao Fu's body. Even though it was only a basic city seal, he could sense that Zhao Fu's power wasn't just this. This was because Zhao Fu was a player, and he was the first player city lord he had seen. To be able to raise a village to a basic city in such a short period of time. Zhao Fu's background was evidently not simple at all. The bearded big man didn't feel too confident. If they fought here, Great Ancient City would be the first to suffer, as the shockwave from the battle would be able to destroy a large number of buildings. Another reason was that this was a conflict between players, and the system faction shouldn't have gotten involved. With the Wang family's development in Great Ancient City, getting rid of the Wang family wouldn't bring any harm to Great Ancient City. On one hand, it would suppress the player faction, and on the other hand, it would get rid of the Wang family. This was a good thing. Chapter 373. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised, and he had thought that another battle would be inevitable. However, since the bearded big man was willing to make peace, Zhao Fu was willing as well. Zhao Fu's main goal was to destroy the Wang family, and now that he had accomplished that, fighting with Great Ancient City Lord would not bring him any benefits. He had many people here, so he had to be wary of them. Of course, I don't want to form enmity with Great Ancient City, so I hope that we can get along well, Zhao Fu said courteously as he retracted his aura. The bearded big man felt slightly relieved, but he was worried that this person would insist on fighting with him. He smiled and said, "Of course I'll welcome anyone who can become friends with Great Ancient City." The two of them exchanged some pleasantries before Zhao Fu and his people left under countless shocked gazes. News of the Wang family being destroyed quickly spread, and countless people were incredibly shocked. They had never thought that such a powerful faction like the Wang family would be destroyed so easily. What shocked them even more was that even the system main city lord had gone and had not done anything to that mysterious faction, and he had been incredibly courteous. It could be imagined just how terrifying the faction that had destroyed the Wang family was. That restaurant became an existence that no one dared to offend. Zhao Fu's faction was also successfully established, but it was not in Great Ancient City, but in another system main city. Zhao Fu felt that Great Ancient City was already very wary of him, and it would not be good for him to stay there. As such, he decided to go to another system main city. By now, the 4 regions around the Forest of Horrors had all been set up. Now, they just had to slowly develop before they could begin to pull in the net. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu found that there was nothing else to do, and in the next few days, Qin City once again returned to its normal state of development. Military matters. The soldiers continued to conquer, and now, Qin City controlled 3,000 kilometers of land. This was quite large, but compared to the Forest of Horrors, it was still quite small. Actually, in the beginning, it was fine as long as there was enough land. There was not much use in having more. The initial goal of Zhao Fu's conquest was to plunder the population. Land was just an extra. Only in the later stages would these pieces of land be useful. For example, after a kingdom was established, all of this land would become part of the kingdom, and each piece of land represented a trace of fate. Land also contained earth fate, and the more land one had, the more earth fate one would be able to obtain. There would also be more talents and resources, and the more powerful one would be. The military side was directly managed by many generals. They mainly carried out expeditions and attacked various villages. It was very simple, and there was no need for Zhao Fu to personally handle it. Next was internal affairs. In terms of internal affairs, Zhao Fu really felt that he wasn't suited for it, and he rarely managed it directly. He left everything to Li Si. Zhao Fu himself was more inclined to go to war, rather than lead the city to deal with all sorts of administrative matters. He was more inclined to be a king at war. There were many administrative matters. Now, Qin City had 584 villages, and they were spread out within 1,500 kilometers of Qin City. Because of teleportation channels, it was much easier to travel between villages. However, there were many internal affairs. The first was the people's livelihood, followed by construction, production, commerce, education, transportation, information, and the various races. Now that he had some free time, even though Zhao Fu didn't want to manage these things, as a lord, he still had to manage internal affairs. He started with the people's livelihood. The people's livelihood referred to the people's lives. Zhao Fu didn't know about this, because the people's lives were only truly good if they said they were good, and they couldn't be judged by others. For example, someone had a high salary and was very relaxed. He seemed to be living a good life, but he felt that life was extremely dull and boring. For example, you saw someone else doing dirty and tiring work. You felt that their life was not good, but he felt that his life was very fulfilling, and his life also had meaning. Li Si, make an announcement and choose 300 representatives for the people's livelihood. Zhao Fu sat at the top and said to Li Si, who was standing respectfully by his side. Now that Qin City's population was nearing 700,000, Zhao Fu couldn't ask them about their lives one by one. As such, he asked them to choose their own representatives and express their opinions. This was very democratic, and it was very similar to a system in the real world. However, Zhao Fu didn't want to establish a system like that in the real world. He still insisted on the empire system, where the monarch was supreme. Zhao Fu didn't forget the principle that water could carry a boat, but it could also capsize it. The empire still needed to rely on them to become strong. It would be beneficial to listen to their opinions. As a wise monarch, he would want his people to live better lives. This system had been around for a long time in the West, but it was a pity that the East only used it in modern times. Now, the Qin Empire also used this system, which was a form of reform. After hearing Zhao Fu's words, Li Si expressed his approval and immediately made an announcement. This announcement was posted in the place where announcements were made in Qin City, and it was also sent to various villages and towns. This caused a great uproar, and countless people gathered around the announcement and discussed it fiercely. His Highness asked us to choose representatives to give our opinions and understand our lives. His Highness is so wise. Yes, His Highness is so high and mighty, and he even listens to the opinions of ordinary people like us. He's so good to us. We're so lucky to have such a Highness. Someone else said, His Majesty is incredibly noble, and we're so lowly. I feel like we're offending His Majesty by asking him for advice. I feel that we'll do whatever His Majesty says, and I believe that His Majesty will lead us to a bright future. As soon as this was said, someone else immediately said, This shows that His Highness is a wise monarch. He's willing to lower his status and listen to our opinions, which shows that he values us. We're so lucky to have a Highness who loves people so much. I think we can choose representatives, not only for us, but also for His Highness to build a better Qin Empire. Hearing this person's words, many people nodded in agreement, and countless people started to discuss who to choose as representatives. Zhao Fu also gave some conditions, which are that representatives had to be loved and respected by countless people and not have any bad habits. After classes at the Rising Qin Academy, countless students started to talk about this matter, and this matter caused all of Qin City to become quite lively. Teacher Asani, we want to choose you to be our academy's representative, all right? Some students said loudly to Asani, who was preparing for class. Asani knew about this, and when she heard that the students wanted to choose her as their representative, she felt a bit shy and quickly shook her head, indicating that she wasn't suitable. When Baishan heard about this, he happily laughed and said to the other scholars, "Everyone, you must choose me as your representative. If you insist on choosing me as your representative, I think there's no one more suitable than me." Chapter 374. While people were enthusiastically talking about the representatives of the people's livelihood, Zhao Fu was also preparing to build a meeting hall. This meeting hall could accommodate thousands of people at most. Its main function was, of course, for the parliament. In the future, as the population of Qin continued to increase, the representatives of the people's livelihood would also increase. In the future, this meeting hall would also become the gathering center of public opinion in Qin. The parliament would probably only be held once a year, because Zhao Fu didn't have that much time. It was impossible for him to hold a public opinion meeting every day. During the construction of the meeting hall, Zhao Fu set his eyes on the next thing to deal with, which was the production of Qin. Now the leaves had turned yellow, and the green was gradually disappearing. The whole mountain was filled with the feeling of autumn. The weather was slightly cool, and there was no longer the heat of summer. This was autumn. Of course, more importantly, autumn was also a harvest season. Although with the bonus of the crop growth attribute in Qin, no matter what crop it would mature in a short time. If it was autumn, many crops would have additional bonuses, mainly in the taste, which would be sweeter and more delicious than before. For example, the taste of fruits would be sweeter. If it was grains, the grains would be fuller and the smell would be stronger. When they arrived at the production area of Qin, there were already people harvesting the grains and picking the fruits. Harvesting the fruits was nothing. They just reached out to pick the fruits from the trees, put them in baskets, and then carried them out of the orchard. This was very simple, and there was no difficulty. It didn't require much skill, and the efficiency was average. However, in the field of grains, it seemed a bit backward. After harvesting the grains, they directly used the most primitive method to obtain the grains, which was to hold the branches of the grains and then beat them hard in a container made of wooden planks. This way, the ripe grains would fall. This method was too primitive and the efficiency was very low. It was also time-consuming and laborious. Zhao Fu thought of a kind of threshing tool when he was in the countryside when he was a child. It was a kind of tool that was the size of a bed. It was mainly made of wood, and a small part of it was made of iron. The main power was still human power, which was to step on a pedal and then turn the roller to beat the grains. Although this kind of tool was a bit backward in the real world because now it was all mechanical integration, it was very simple and fast to directly harvest and beat the grains. Of course, this kind of machine was very rare, but what Zhao Fu wanted was a tool made of wood. It should be easy to make. After some thought, Zhao Fu returned to the real world. He turned on the computer and searched for the threshing tool. He easily found the specific manufacturing method. Zhao Fu spent some time memorizing the method, and just as he was about to return to the heaven-awakened world, someone knocked on his door. "Mr. Zhao, are you awake?" The voice belonged to the bodyguard. When Zhao Fu heard his voice, he felt a little strange. Usually, it was Zhao Fu who took the initiative to call him, because when he returned to the real world, he would be starving to death. In the real world, his body also needed to replenish its food. Therefore, when Zhao Fu returned to the real world, the first thing he usually did was to call the bodyguard to get his meal. But today, the bodyguard suddenly knocked on the door. Zhao Fu thought that something must have happened. "Come in." Then, the bodyguard walked in and said, "Mr. Zhao, I have something to tell you." Zhao Fu was a little confused and asked, "What is it? Tell me." "It's like this. The Ying family has sent out a notice that all members of the Ying family, whether they're from the main family or the collateral family, must attend the gathering. No one is allowed to be absent, or they will be severely punished," the bodyguard replied. "Gathering? Everyone must attend?" Zhao Fu thought about it and frowned. He felt that this matter was not simple. So he asked, "What's the purpose of this gathering?" The bodyguard thought for a moment before replying, "I heard that it's to check everyone's fate." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite startled. What was going on? Why would the Ying family make such a big move to check their fate? Could it be that his identity had been exposed? In the real world, he didn't have anything that could hide his fate. If it was a fate-gazing expert, they would definitely discover that he was the legendary Emperor Qin. What should I do now? At that moment, countless ideas flashed through Zhao Fu's mind, and he asked the bodyguard, "How long will this gathering last?" The bodyguard replied, "It's tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Zhao Fu nodded and asked the bodyguard to leave while he thought about this crisis. This was definitely a crisis because the Ying family had made such a big move, and Zhao Fu felt a trace of danger. The higher-ups of the Ying family had ordered that everyone had to go, or else they would be severely punished. If he still didn't go, it would be too suspicious. However, what should he do if he went? He didn't have anything that could hide his fate, and the main purpose of this gathering was to check his fate. There would definitely be a fate-gazing expert there, and his identity would definitely be exposed. Once his identity was exposed, he would be easily killed by the Ying family, and he wouldn't be able to resist at all. Moreover, with the cold-blooded nature of the Ying family, they would definitely not let off anyone related to him. Even his grandparents would be killed. What should he do? What should he do? Zhao Fu felt quite anxious, and he felt that the Ying family had come with ill intentions. After thinking for a while, Zhao Fu dialed a number. The call did not go through, and just as Zhao Fu was about to hang up, the call finally connected. "Hello." A beautiful female voice sounded out, and Zhao Fu was quite familiar with this voice. It was Xianru's voice. Zhao Fu relaxed and said, "It's me." Xianru's surprised voice sounded out, "Your Majesty? What do you need from me?" Zhao Fu had asked for Xianru's phone a long time ago in case he couldn't contact her in the real world. However, he hadn't dialed her number, mainly because Zhao Fu was simply too weak in the real world, so he had to be careful. Now, the phone had come in handy. Zhao Fu told Xianru about this matter, and also told her where he was in the real world. Zhao Fu had no choice but to trust Xianru. "Your Majesty, I feel that the target of this gathering is Your Majesty, and there will definitely be an expert with qi. Even if Your Majesty uses an item that conceals your qi, he will still be able to tell that something is wrong and discover Your Majesty." Hearing Xianru's words, Zhao Fu felt a chill in his heart. If using an item that could hide his fate was useless, what else could he do? Run away? However, how could he possibly escape from the Ying family's pursuit when he didn't know anything at all? It's clearly impossible. Fortunately, Xianru said, "Your Majesty, I can make an item that can temporarily change your fate to normal, and they won't be able to discover you." Chapter 375. Zhao Fu looked at the time and found that it was already 9 p.m., which meant that there were still 10 hours until 7 a.m. During these 10 hours, Zhao Fu and Xianru discussed and found that there was enough time. Now, Xianru could spend 2 hours creating the tool, and she could send people to deliver the tool in the remaining 8 hours. Now that this matter had been resolved, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief and returned to the heaven-awakened world. He found Bai Shan and told him to temporarily stop researching teleportation channels and focus on the rice threshing machine. At the same time, Zhao Fu gave Bai Shan the blueprints for the rice threshing machine and gave them a few simple blueprints. On a 9-meter tall platform, Xianru stood at the center, wearing a long dress. She had already prepared to create the tool, and her hands continuously performed hand seals. Her hands gave off formless ripples, causing a wild gale and faint sounds of thunder to appear. 2 hours later, Xianru cut her wrist and allowed her blood to fall on a jade pendant. The jade pendant turned into a blood-red rune and entered the jade pendant. Finally, a yin-yang symbol appeared within the jade pendant, and the tool was completed. Ollie. After Xianru finished creating the tool, she walked off the platform and spoke to a man who had been waiting for a long time. Xianru looked at the man who had been waiting for her for a long time. The man nodded and put it into a box before quickly leaving. He then boarded a helicopter and disappeared over the horizon. At 6 a.m., Zhao Fu woke up early and went to the Ying family's main gate. Today was the day of the Ying family's gathering. and the entire Ying family was quite lively. Zhao Fu waited at the entrance of the Ying family's residence. If his identity was exposed, he would be at a disadvantage. After all, he didn't have any power in the real world, and the Ying family could do whatever they wanted to him. He wouldn't be able to resist at all. Zhao Fu definitely didn't like putting his life in the hands of others, and, at the same time, Zhao Fu didn't want any factions to interfere. As such, he absolutely couldn't reveal his identity during this Ying family's gathering. Time gradually passed, and Zhao Fu waited at the main gate as luxurious cars drove into the Ying family. This was the Ying family's largest gathering, and everyone had to attend. Some of the Ying family's people gradually returned to the Ying family. Zhao Fu. Suddenly, a voice sounded out, and Zhao Fu looked over to see Wu Qingyang getting out of a car. Wu Qingyang had dressed herself up today, and she wore a violet dress. Her hair fell over her shoulders, and she wore a pair of crystal earrings. She gave off a noble and beautiful aura. Zhao Fu didn't find it strange that Wu Qingyang had arrived. After all, the Ying family and the Wu family were working closely together, and it was likely that the Wu family would be invited to such a major event. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for me? Wu Qingyang walked over and said with a smile. Zhao Fu smiled awkwardly and shook his head. I'm waiting for something. Wu Qingyang felt quite curious and asked, Really? What is that? Of course, Zhao Fu couldn't tell Wu Qingyang about the artifact, so he covered it up and said, It's nothing. It's just a small thing. Wu Qingyang didn't quite believe Zhao Fu's words, and she looked at Zhao Fu suspiciously. Since Zhao Fu didn't want to tell her, she didn't want to pry any further, so she said, All right then. However, it's almost time, so you can't be late. I'll be waiting for you. Zhao Fu nodded, indicating that he understood, and Wu Qingyang returned to the car and left. Zhao Fu continued to wait, and time gradually passed. Soon, it was 7 a.m., but the artifact still hadn't arrived, causing Zhao Fu to feel quite anxious. 20 or so minutes later, a man walked over to Zhao Fu and handed Zhao Fu a box before quickly leaving. Zhao Fu opened the box and saw that it was a jade pendant. Looking at this jade pendant, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief and took it out, preparing to put it on. Within the boundless darkness, the massive demon star once again gave off a bright blood-red light and started to spin. A trace of blood-red light descended from the sky, causing the space to tremble. The jade pendant instantly turned into dust, causing Zhao Fu to feel quite startled and not be able to react. How did the jade pendant suddenly get destroyed? How can I hide my identity? What should I do now? Zhao Fu. Wu Qingyang returned to the door and looked at Zhao Fu, feeling quite angry. She had told him not to be late, yet he had made her wait for an hour. Not many men dare to treat her like this. Zhao Fu came back to his senses and looked at Wu Qingyang apologetically. Wu Qingyang harumphed and pulled Zhao Fu into the car. Zhao Fu knew that Wu Qingyang was going to take him there, and he didn't have any magic tools to hide his fate. Of course, Zhao Fu didn't want to go there because if he went there, his identity would definitely be exposed. Qingyang, I still have things to do, so I won't be going. Wu Qingyang looked at Zhao Fu and displayed her domineeringness as she immediately refused, saying, No, you're the man I chose, and I want someone to see your fate. If they're not satisfied, I'll divorce you. Zhao Fu couldn't help but bitterly laugh. He couldn't escape this time, so he could only take things one step at a time. Perhaps if his identity was exposed, he would gain some benefits, and he might even be able to take over the Ying family. However, Zhao Fu didn't want his life to be in someone else's hands. Everything in the future was unknown, and Zhao Fu didn't have an omniscient view. As such, he felt quite uneasy, and he looked out the car window. When Wu Qingyang saw that Zhao Fu had become quite depressed, she thought that she had gone too far with her words. She wrapped her arms around Zhao Fu's arm and rested her head on Zhao Fu's shoulder as she said gently, Are you angry? Zhao Fu came back to his senses and smiled as he replied, No, perhaps you really aren't satisfied with my fate, so you should just give up on me. Zhao Fu didn't have much confidence in Wu Qingyang. She had always been with him based on her intuition, and their relationship was more like that of friends. Zhao Fu had never seen himself as Wu Qingyang's man, and Zhao Fu knew his own position. If she had chosen someone else, Zhao Fu wouldn't have reacted much, and he would have understood. When Wu Qingyang heard Zhao Fu's words, she became quite angry. She pinched Zhao Fu's waist and twisted, causing Zhao Fu to tremble in pain. What do you mean I should? I won't give up on you. You're the only man I like, and even if you don't have any fate, I'll still change your fate. Wu Qingyang hugged Zhao Fu's arm and looked at Zhao Fu closely, her beautiful eyes serious and serious. Chapter 376. Let's go. After arriving at the gathering location, Wu Qingyang regained her noble appearance and hugged Zhao Fu's arm as they walked into the crowd. This was a spacious garden, and there were tens of thousands of people here. Luckily, the garden was quite big, or else it would have been too crowded. Wu Qingyang walking in with her arm around Zhao Fu's, immediately attracting many gazes. Now that the ancient beauty rankings have been released, countless people were paying attention to it. Wu Qingyang was ranked third, and she was incredibly famous. Everyone present, whether they were from the Ying family's main branch, or collateral branches, wanted to see Wu Qingyang for themselves. Her peerlessly beautiful appearance and demeanor had caused countless people to fall in love with her. However, they found that she was hugging an ordinary-looking man who wasn't very handsome, and their gazes were filled with enmity and hatred. Yingxi was also quite shocked to see her good sister hugging Zhao Fu. She had thought that Wu Qingyang only treated Zhao Fu as an important chess piece, and that she only treated Zhao Fu as a friend. However, it seemed that Wu Qingyang's feelings for Zhao Fu were not as simple as she had thought. Thinking back to how intimate she had been with Wu Qingyang and seeing how close she was with Zhao Fu, she couldn't help but feel a bit jealous. The Ying family's other young master was a handsome young man called Ying Qin. Looking at this scene, he couldn't help but feel hatred. He had been pursuing Wu Qingyang for a long time, not just for her, but also for the faction behind her. However, Wu Qingyang had always been lukewarm towards him, and he had thought that Wu Qingyang was too arrogant and needed to slowly pursue him. However, he had never thought that she would walk in with her arm around a man. After all, this wasn't a banquet, and there was no need for male companions. Wu Qingyang walking in with her arm around Zhao Fu was quite ambiguous. Another person coldly looked over. It was Ying Wu, the fake Qin's legatee. From the first banquet, Ying Wu had treated Wu Qingyang and Su Yuyin as his own women. In front of Su Yuyin, Wu Jinzhan won. Su Yuyin didn't directly reject him, nor did she express any ambiguity. On the other hand, he couldn't make any progress with Wu Qingyang. Wu Qingyang didn't hide her rejection at all. Now, seeing Wu Qingyang hugging Zhao Fu so intimately, Ying Wu's heart exploded with rage. Ying Wu had seen Zhao Fu at the first banquet, and he had sent people to investigate Zhao Fu. He knew that Zhao Fu was just a minor collateral family disciple with no status at all, and that he could easily crush him to death. As such, he did not pay too much attention to Zhao Fu, thinking that Wu Qingyang only treated Zhao Fu as a servant. However, he never would have thought that something like this would happen. How could Ying Wu not feel hatred towards the women he had long since fallen for? Even though he had many women, none of them could compare to Wu Qingyang and Su Yuyin. At this moment, Zhao Fu's cousin also saw this scene. He turned his head and shouted, "Grandpa, look at cousin." Hearing this, Zhao Fu's grandpa and his family all looked over. When Zhao Fu's grandpa and grandma saw this, they smiled happily. If Zhao Fu could marry such a beautiful woman, he would be incredibly lucky. However, when they heard the people next to them mention Wu Qingyang's status, their smiling faces immediately became worried. With such a prestigious status, our Fu heir might not be good enough for her. Beside them, Zhao Fu's auntie said, "That's right. Tell Zhao Fu to stay away from her. Small figures like us aren't good enough for her. If we offend those big figures, we might be implicated as well." This caused everyone else to feel quite displeased, and Zhao Fu's grandpa angrily yelled, "Don't forget who saved your two sons back then. How dare you speak like that?" Facing her grandpa's rebuke, Zhao Fu's auntie didn't say anything else. Facing so many gazes, Zhao Fu felt quite uncomfortable and said, "Qingyang, can you let go now?" Wu Qingyang rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu and said, "Do you know how many people want to be like this, but they don't even have a chance?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed. "Of course I do. She's the third-ranked beauty on the ancient beauty rankings, and countless people dream of marrying her." Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Wu Qingyang couldn't help but smile. She knew that Zhao Fu wasn't used to this, so she let go. "Qingyang, hurry and come over." She called out to Wu Qingyang from above. Following this, Wu Qingyang walked over. As for Zhao Fu, because of his low status, he didn't have the right to go up there. Zhao Fu didn't mind, and he decided to find a place to hide so that he wouldn't attract too much attention. However, just as Zhao Fu took a few steps, he was suddenly pushed by someone, causing him to stumble and almost fall to the ground. A mocking voice sounded out from behind him, saying, "It's best if you stay away from Big Miss Wu. Why don't you take a look at yourself first?" Zhao Fu deeply breathed in and calmed himself down. He looked at those young men and didn't say anything before finding a remote place to hide and think about how to get through this gathering. Following this, Zhao Fu saw 30 or so Taoists wearing Taoist robes and holding horsetail whisks walk out. The Ying family was quite courteous to these Taoists, and it seemed that they weren't simple at all. Zhao Fu became even more careful, and someone announced the rules for this gathering. Those from the main family would go up in groups of 3 and have their fate read by the Taoists. Those from the side family would go up in groups of 12, and those from the side family would go up in groups of 100. After hearing these rules, Zhao Fu, who was from the side family, felt that he could bluff his way through, so he waited for an opportunity. The first people to have their fate read by the Taoists were the main family's disciples, who were the young masters of the various branches. There were 4 men and 2 women. The 30 or so Taoists were led by a long-bearded Taoist. This Taoist was Qiu Fengzi. This gathering was organized by Qiu Fengzi. On the surface, it seemed like it was for the Ying family to find talents, but in actuality, it was for him to find Legatee Qin. Ever since he had found out that Legatee Qin was in the Ying family, Qiu Fengzi had tried everything he could to find Zhao Fu, but he had been unable to find him. As such, he could only use this move to find Zhao Fu. The Ying family happily accepted Qiu Fengzi's suggestion and strongly supported it. After all, reading someone's fate was not simple. If it was an ordinary person's fate, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, if it was someone with great status and great fate, it would cost their lifespan. The first young man, who was called Ying Qin, walked up to Qiu Fengzi under everyone's gazes. Chapter 377. Qiu Fengzi formed hand seals and closed his eyes. It was unknown what incantation he was chanting, but when he opened his eyes, a green light shot out from his eyes. Qiu Fengzi's eyes became even more spirited, and his gaze became sharper. This young lord has great fate and will definitely have great accomplishments in the future. Qiu Fengzi casually looked at Ying Qin and praised him. In actuality, he had already seen these young lords and knew that they weren't Emperor Qin's legatee. However, these people were the young lords of the Ying family's branches, so they had a lot of fate. This meant that they would definitely have great accomplishments in the future. Of course, they couldn't compare to Emperor Qin's legatee at all. After looking at Ying Qin, the second person to walk up was Ying Shi. Her fate was only slightly weaker than Ying Qin's. Out of the entire Ying family, only the 2 of them had the best aptitude and fate. After them were the other young lords, but their fate was even weaker than Ying Shi's. After looking at these young lords, the next person to go up was Ying Wu. This was just an act of the Ying family, because they had told the outside world that he was Emperor Qin's legatee. Otherwise, with his true identity, he wouldn't even be able to enter the Ying family's gates. Ying Wu felt quite humiliated that he was ranked behind the young lords of the Ying family. This meant that he couldn't compare to those people at all, and he didn't want to submit to anyone. However, even though he was angry, he understood his status. All of this had been given to him by the Ying family, and the Ying family could take it back at any time. Ying Wu could only suppress his resentment and put on a dignified appearance as he walked over to Qiu Fengzi. Qiu Fengzi was quite surprised and didn't know what was going on. This fake's fate was not any weaker than the young lord's. This young lord has an immense amount of fate, and he will definitely become a marquis in the future. The Ying family had long since reminded them that it didn't matter if Ying Wu looked at him or not. They just had to praise him and put on an act. Qiu Fengzi also told them that Ying Wu also had a decent amount of fate. The higher-ups of the Ying family couldn't help but pay attention to Ying Wu and decided to nurture him. Next were groups of 3 from the Ying family's legatee. Qiu Fengzi didn't need to look at them, and he was replaced by other Taoists. Qiu Fengzi didn't have the ability to look at everyone's fate, so he needed the help of the other Taoists. Even though these Taoist priests weren't as good as Qiu Fengzi at fate divination, they were still quite skilled. Qiu Fengzi didn't expect them to directly find Prince Qin. He just wanted them to pick out some people who he couldn't see through because the legendary Prince Qin was hidden among them. The Taoist priests started to use all sorts of methods to observe the fate, and the people from the Ying family's main branch stepped forward according to the rules. The number of people continuously decreased, and after looking through the main family, Qiu Fengzi felt quite disappointed. He did not see Imperial Prince Qin, but this was to be expected. Next was the side family. Time gradually passed, and Qiu Fengzi finished looking through the side factions and still did not find Qin's legatee. Qiu Fengzi sighed, and next was the side factions. The collateral family had the most people and occupied 60% of the roles. Now that he had finished looking at the collateral family, Qiu Fengzi could only place his hopes on the collateral family. The people from the collateral family followed the rules and went up in groups of 100, allowing the Taoist priests to observe their qi. At the same time, the number of people from the collateral family continuously decreased. Seeing that it was about time, Zhao Fu followed behind a very fat man and stood on the stage. Because there were so many people, Zhao Fu hid behind the fat man. Following this, the Taoist priests started to use their fate divination methods. One of the young Taoist priests looked at the fat man and thought about it before looking at the others. A while later, Zhao Fu's group finished their fate divination, and Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He had escaped danger. The next group went up, and Zhao Fu once again hid within the crowd. Martial uncle, those 6 people's fate is a bit strange, a Taoist priest said as he walked over to tell Qiu Fengzi. Qiu Fengzi looked at the 6 people and found that they were quite strange. Their fate shouldn't have been very strong, but for some reason, their fate had suddenly increased by a lot. These 6 people are Zhao Fu's maternal grandparents, uncle, and family. Qiu Fengzi reminded the Ying family to treat these 6 people well, but they were not the legatee Qin that he was looking for. Following this, Qiu Fengzi looked through the people from the collateral family, but he still could not find legatee Qin. Qiu Fengzi's expression became quite dispirited as he thought to himself, could it be that legatee Qin didn't come, or had he already left the Ying family? On the contrary, the Ying family was incredibly jubilant, because Qiu Fengzi had found many good seedlings for them. They all had good fate, and they would become decent geniuses in the future. After the fate gazing concluded, the Ying family announced that they would hold a banquet to celebrate this event. Zhao Fu did not plan on attending, and now that the fate gazing was over, Zhao Fu just wanted to leave. However, just as Zhao Fu was about to leave, a hand grabbed onto Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu turned and saw a 15 or 16-year-old Taoist priest staring at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu felt quite startled. Could it be that this Taoist priest had discovered something? At that moment, Wu Qingyang walked over and looked at the scene in front of her, feeling quite confused as she asked, "Little Taoist priest, why are you grabbing onto him?" The young Taoist let go of Zhao Fu and shook his head as he muttered to himself, but no one could hear what he was saying. Wu Qingyang felt quite confused, but because she had more important things to do, she did not pay too much mind. She turned to Zhao Fu and asked, "Zhao Fu, where did you go? Where did you go just now? Why didn't I see you on stage?" About that, I went up before, and I registered everywhere. Perhaps you didn't notice, Zhao Fu replied. Wu Qingyang looked at Zhao Fu, evidently not believing him. She pulled on Zhao Fu's hand and said, I'll take you to Daoist Xiao and have him take a look at you. Zhao Fu felt quite confused. Wasn't this the same as sending himself to the mouth of a tiger? As such, Zhao Fu refused, saying, Qingyang, there's no need. I might not have much fate. At that moment, Qiu Fengzi looked at his little disciple, who was standing somewhere muttering to himself. There were two people next to him, one of whom was a peerlessly beautiful woman. Qiu Fengzi knew about this woman and knew that she was from the Wu family. He had seen Wu Qingyang's fate before, and he knew that she had a massive amount of fate because she was a legatee. Even the 6 young masters of the Ying family combined couldn't compare to her fate. That was the benefit of having a legacy. At the same time, Qiu Fengzi found that Wu Qingyang also had the Myrtle Imperial Star, which meant that she could also become a queen. Her Dragon Phoenix constitution was one of the best in the past 10 or so generations. Wu Qingyang's future was immeasurable, and Qiu Fengzi could already imagine that she would become a great empress just like her ancestor. Chapter 378. No, you have to go this time so that I can know the truth about you, Wu Qingyang said as she held on to Zhao Fu's hand. Zhao Fu felt quite troubled because this would reveal his identity. Zhao Fu didn't want to put his life in someone else's hands, and Zhao Fu didn't want to participate in the matters after revealing his identity. As such, he said, Qingyang, I'm not going to go. I've already looked at my fate, so perhaps I really don't have any fate. I don't believe you. You have to listen to me this time. That Taoist Qiu is quite powerful and is an important figure in the Taoist school. Don't worry, he won't do anything to you. Wu Qingyang felt that Zhao Fu was hiding something, but this concerned fate. Wu Qingyang wanted to know just how great Zhao Fu's fate was, so even if Zhao Fu wasn't willing, she still insisted on bringing Zhao Fu to Qiu Fengzi. Hearing Wu Qingyang's words, Zhao Fu felt that he couldn't go. Wasn't he walking right into a trap? However, Wu Qingyang was too forceful and insisted on Zhao Fu going. Now, she was trying to drag Zhao Fu over. At that moment, Qiu Fengzi excitedly ran over. Seeing his master run over, the young Taoist beside him immediately said, Master, I have something to tell you. Wait. Qiu Fengzi didn't even think about it and told his disciple to wait. He went over to Zhao Fu and Wu Qingyang's side and stared at Zhao Fu. Seeing Qiu Fengzi suddenly run over, Wu Qingyang smiled. Now, she didn't need to bring Zhao Fu, and Qiu Fengzi had come over by himself. Just as Wu Qingyang was about to say something, she saw that something was off with Qiu Fengzi's expression. He looked quite excited and delighted as he stared at Zhao Fu and asked, What's going on? Zhao Fu felt his hair stand on end when he saw the long-bearded Taoist looking at him. He immediately tried to struggle free from Wu Qingyang's grasp and leave. Sir, wait a minute. Qiu Fengzi's attitude toward Zhao Fu had unknowingly become respectful. Seeing that Zhao Fu wanted to leave, he immediately spoke up. This scene made Wu Qingyang feel quite surprised. Qiu Fengzi is acting so respectfully toward Zhao Fu? It must be known that with Qiu Fengzi's status, most aristocratic families have to respect him. But who would have thought that he would be so respectful to Zhao Fu? Taoist priest, I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Even though Qiu Fengzi's attitude was quite good, Zhao Fu did not appreciate it because he felt that he could not stay here any longer. This Taoist priest had definitely discovered something. Sir, don't worry, just give me 3 minutes. No, just 1 minute will do, Qiu Fengzi hurriedly said. Even though Qiu Fengzi had not used his aura viewing technique, he could sense the Son of Heaven's aura from Zhao Fu. Most legatees would have a bit of this Son of Heaven's aura, and ordinary people would not be able to sense it. For example, Wu Qingyang had quite a bit of the Son of Heaven's aura, and it was an aura that her body instinctively gave off. It made people feel reverence and awe, and even ghosts did not dare to come close. The reason why Wu Qingyang was ranked third among the ancient beauties was because of the domineering sun of heaven's aura that she gave off. However, this person in front of him had almost completely formed the sun of heaven's aura. Only Prince Qin, who had countless traces of fate, had this kind of ability. However, in order to confirm this, Qiu Fengzi started to perform hand seals, and his eyes gradually became green. By the side, the young Taoist also used the aura viewing technique like Qiu Fengzi. He had felt that something was off the entire time, but he hadn't noticed Zhao Fu hiding behind the fatty. Only after the aura viewing technique ended and the young Taoist saw Zhao Fu did he feel that something was off. As such, after the gathering had ended, he had run over to confirm. However, with his ability, he had not been able to see anything. Now, he was using his aura viewing technique with his master, wanting to see what Zhao Fu was like. Qiu Fengzi's eyes became completely green as he used his aura viewing technique with all his might. Zhao Fu was given a big fright, and he grabbed Wu Qingyang's hand and prepared to leave. At that moment, Qiu Fengzi finished using his aura viewing technique, and a pair of green eyes looked at Zhao Fu. Immediately, Qiu Fengzi's body trembled as he saw a massive amount of blood-red aura spread out from Zhao Fu's body. The sky and ground became blood-red, and an aura of slaughter, death, disaster, and terror filled the entire world, making it seem as if it had descended from hell. There was also a gigantic devilish star in the sky that gave off an immense pressure. Qiu Fengzi's body trembled as he broke out in a cold sweat. This was the Chaos Imperial Star. However, the situation suddenly changed, perhaps because it saw Qiu Fengzi's aura viewing technique. The gigantic blood-red star started to spin, giving off a bright blood-red light as a formless evil energy exploded out. Pooh! Qiu Fengzi's expression became stiff as he coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Blood also flowed out of his eyes as he powerlessly fell to the ground. Arg! The little Taoist was also affected by that terrifying energy, and he felt as if he had fallen into an icy cavern. He was so scared that he collapsed to the ground and cried out in terror. This sudden turn of events caused the countless people who were preparing to leave to stop in their tracks and look over with strange gazes. Zhao Fu, who was holding Wu Qingyang's hand, the confused Wu Qingyang, Qiu Fengzi, who was lying on the ground, and the terrified Taoist became the center of everyone's attention. Seeing Qiu Fengzi cough up blood and fall to the ground, the other Taoists hurried over and picked him up. They checked his injuries and let out sighs of relief before feeding him a few medicinal pills. Qiu Shi, calm down. Calm down and tell me what's going on. An older Taoist said with a serious expression as he looked at the terrified little Taoist next to him. Seeing so many senior apprentices come over, the little Taoist came back to his senses. His body still trembled as he pointed at Zhao Fu and said, just then, Master used an aura viewing technique on him and suffered a backlash. I saw boundless slaughter, death, disaster, and terror on him. Senior apprentice brother, I'm so scared. As he spoke, the little Taoist started to cry. The Chaos Imperial Star's power was simply too terrifying, and the other Taoists started to comfort him. Now, everyone's gazes were focused on Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu heavily sighed and let go of Wu Qingyang's hand. Today's trouble was unavoidable. Wu Qingyang also felt that the situation was quite serious, but she did not fully understand. Seeing Zhao Fu sigh, she wanted to ask, just what happened? Slaughter, death, disaster, and terror? That person is definitely a star of disaster. For him to be able to cause Taoist Qiu to suffer such a severe backlash, he's definitely not an ordinary star of disaster. If he stays in the Ying family, there will definitely be trouble. Men, capture this person and kill him. Ying Qin had long since disliked Zhao Fu, and now that he was the first successor of the Ying family, he could use this opportunity to get rid of this person. Chapter 379. Wait, isn't it too rash to kill someone like this? Seeing the guards walk over, Wu Qingyang really wanted to follow Ying Qin's orders and kill Zhao Fu. so she immediately stood up and said. This caused the guards to reveal awkward expressions as they looked at Qin, who was above them. Seeing how protective Wu Qingyang was of Zhao Fu, Qin felt even angrier, and he coldly harumphed, Qingyang, why do you have to stand up for such a lowly person and hurt our relationship? Wu Qingyang realized why Qin wanted to kill Zhao Fu so badly. So it was because of her, and she felt quite apologetic. She turned to look at Zhao Fu and gave a beautiful smile as she said, He's the man that I've chosen. These words caused countless people to feel quite shocked. At first, it would have been fine if Zhao Fu and Wu Qingyang had an ambiguous relationship. But now, Wu Qingyang had completely admitted that Zhao Fu would be her man in the future, and their relationship was so close that it could cause anyone's imagination to run wild. Zhao Fu had never thought that Wu Qingyang would say such a thing. However, Zhao Fu was worried that this would be detrimental to her development in the future. Now, Zhao Fu knew that many people had chosen to help Wu Qingyang in order to woo her. Qingyang, how could such a lowly and worthless piece of trash be worthy of you? Qin furiously yelled as he pointed at Zhao Fu. Wu Qingyang's words made Qin furious. At that moment, Wu heard Wu Qingyang admit to her relationship with Zhao Fu, and he couldn't hold back his jealousy and anger. He said, I also feel that this person is a harbinger of disaster and should be killed as soon as possible. I also heard that this person has the Li family's bloodline, and he's most likely a spy who infiltrated the Ying family. Also, how could an illegitimate child like him be worthy of the Wu family's legatee and the future ruler of Great Zhou? There were already many people who hated Zhao Fu, and now that they heard the #1 successor of the Ying family, as well as Qin's legatee, many people began to speak. That's right. This person is a scourge, so how can he be left alive? He should be killed. This person is definitely a spy who infiltrated the Ying family with bad intentions. Otherwise, why would an illegitimate child of the Li family be in the Ying family? I also feel that such a lowly person doesn't deserve Miss Wu at all. This kind of person doesn't even know what he's worth, and he still wants to climb up to Miss Wu. Enough! A delicate cry suddenly sounded out within the clamor. Wu Qingyang looked quite angry and gave off a powerful aura as she said, Right now, Zhao Fu belongs to me. I won't allow anyone to humiliate him. Wu Qingyang truly lived up to her reputation as the most domineering woman. With a single shout, she gave off a powerful aura that suppressed the entire area, causing everyone to fall silent. Qingyang, don't stubbornly choose this kind of person who's nothing. Qin was furious to the extreme, and his face was completely red as he shouted, This is my choice. Right now, he doesn't have anything, but I believe that in the future, his power will overturn the world and surpass everyone else. Wu Qingyang stood her ground, and every single word she spoke was filled with power and didn't seem weak at all. Ha! Qin laughed as if he had heard a great joke, and he pointed at Zhao Fu as he said condescendingly, Him? Is it even possible? Whether it's status, power, wealth, looks, knowledge, or talent, he's just a piece of trash who's only fit to live at the bottom of society. I've already said that he's the person I've chosen, Qin. You better show some respect. Wu Qingyang's beautiful eyes were filled with coldness. When Qin saw that Wu Qingyang was speaking to him like this because of Zhao Fu, he was completely infuriated. Seeing this, she felt that she couldn't let things continue like this, or else it wouldn't be good for either of them. As such, she said, I believe that even if Zhao Fu is a person of calamity, killing him doesn't necessarily mean that he could be kicked out of the Ying family. Also, Qingyang, with Zhao Fu's status, he truly isn't good enough for you. This isn't just your problem. Your family will also oppose you. Seeing that her good sister was speaking, Wu Qingyang's tone became gentler, and she thought about it before saying, That's fine. I'll bring Zhao Fu back to the Wu family, and Zhao Fu will be part of the Wu family in the future. I'm sure no one has any objections now, right? Hearing Wu Qingyang's words, Shi sighed. After knowing Wu Qingyang for so long, she knew that once she made a decision, she wouldn't easily change her mind. No, He's a person of calamity, and he'll definitely be a threat to the Ying family in the future. As such, he has to die. You're not going to listen to me? Kill this person." Seeing that Wu Qingyang was still so stubborn, Ying Qin said with a dense killing intent in his eyes. When the guards heard Zhao Fu's order, they prepared to rush up and kill Zhao Fu. "Let's see who dares." Wu Qingyang blocked in front of Zhao Fu and yelled out, sounding incredibly dignified. She and her female bodyguards also rushed up and blocked in front of Wu Qingyang, causing the atmosphere to become incredibly tense. Seeing this scene, how could Zhao Fu's maternal grandfather allow someone else to kill Zhao Fu? He also wanted to go and block in front of Zhao Fu, kneel down, and beg Ying Qin to spare Zhao Fu. Fu Er had been wandering outside since he was young, and he had suffered so much. He couldn't allow anything to happen to Zhao Fu. However, he was still pulled by his uncle and begged, "Father, if you go out now, not only will you be useless, but you'll also harm our family. Think of us, and think of your 2 grandsons." In the end, grandfather also compromised. Zhao Fu's cousins also wanted to stand up, but they were forcibly suppressed by aunt. "Wu Qingyang, don't tell me you want to break off relations with the Ying family because of him?" When Ying Qin saw how Wu Qingyang was protecting Zhao Fu, even going so far as to use force and call him by his name, he no longer had any feelings for her. When they heard Ying Qin's words, the leaders of the various branches frowned. From how they see it, there's no need for the 2 families to fall out. Of course, the 2 families working together is for the greater benefit. How can they fall out just like that? That's not beneficial to either side. The patriarchs of the other branches shook their heads at Ying Qin's willful behavior. However, this woman from the Wu family was a bit too domineering, and she didn't seem to place the Ying family in her eyes at all. Suppressing the Wu family's arrogance wasn't a bad idea, so the patriarchs of the other branches thought about it and didn't say anything. Ying Qin's words caused Wu Qingyang to become serious. If the 2 families fell out, the Wu family would be at a disadvantage. After all, the Ying family was many times larger than the Wu family, and whether it was in terms of money or resources, the Wu family definitely couldn't compare to the Ying family. Chapter 380. Out of all of them, Wu Qingyang feared Prince Qin the most. With Prince Qin's current strength, there wasn't a single faction in the world that didn't fear him. His name was synonymous with terror. Wu Qingyang didn't know what his attitude toward the Ying family was, but if she offended Imperial Prince Qin because of this, it would be very bad. Imperial Prince Qin gave Wu Qingyang too much pressure, and the consequences would be 10 times worse than breaking off relations with the Ying family. Now, do we really have to offend the Ying family and even the Crown Prince Qin for Zhao Fu? Some of the Wu family's members could not help but say, "Qingyang, although we'll support you in all your decisions, you can't do that this time. You need to understand the consequences. There are so many men in the world, and with your looks, there are tens of thousands of men who are several times better than him. You don't have to worry at all. You need to think about the Wu family." Hearing the words of her family members, Wu Qingyang couldn't help but hesitate. The burden of the entire family was on her shoulders, and she couldn't think of anything for herself. Seeing this, she couldn't bear to see this, and she stood up and said, "I think we should all take a step back. There's no need to kill Zhao Fu. Just expel Zhao Fu from the Ying family, and the Wu family shouldn't take him in either. Let him fend for himself." After hearing Ying Shi's words, the family leaders inwardly nodded. This was the best way to resolve the current situation. With Ying Shi's ability, the family leaders were incredibly happy. Ying Shi was a concubine that they had specially prepared for Crown Prince Qin. She had to have the ability to be liked by Crown Prince Qin and fight to become the empress in the future. No. However, Wu Qingyang immediately refused. "Little Shi, you also know that the Li family has long since sent people to assassinate Zhao Fu. If he loses the protection of both the Ying family and the Wu family, Zhao Fu will definitely die." Ying Shi agreed. She had almost forgotten about the threat of the Li family. Previously, the Li family had already sent assassins to assassinate Zhao Fu. If Zhao Fu lost the protection of the Ying family, he would definitely be killed by the Leaf family within a day. I can give the bodyguard who was in charge of protecting Zhao Fu to Zhao Fu, and let him be in charge of Zhao Fu's safety. Is that okay now, Qingyang? After thinking about it, Yingxi decided to take a step back and said to Wu Qingyang. Before Wu Qingyang could reply, Yingqin said, "No. The most I can do is not kill him and expel him from the Ying family. Why would I send bodyguards to protect him? What does his life or death have to do with the Ying family? Just let the Li family kill him. Then I'll bring Zhao Fu back to the Wu clan." Wu Qingyang's voice sounded. This once again infuriated Yingqin, and he yelled, "Wu Qingyang, do you really want to break off relations with the Ying family? Don't forget that most of the benefits were given to the Wu family by the Ying family." Wu Qingyang's expression became cold. Hearing Yingqin's overbearing words, she made a decision. It was just breaking off relations with the Ying family, so what was so great about that? Just as Wu Qingyang was about to officially break off relations with the Ying family, Yingxi and the Wu family's people tried to persuade her. Yingxi and the rest of the Wu clan tried to persuade her, but they were unable to change her mind. Wu Qingyang had already made up her mind. "All right, since the Ying family is like this, then my Wu family..." "Qingyang." Before Wu Qingyang could finish speaking, a voice cut her off. Wu Qingyang turned to look at Zhao Fu and saw Zhao Fu smiling at her, telling her to leave everything to him. Wu Qingyang felt a trace of warmth in her heart. Seeing this, Yingqin felt incredibly jealous and said, "Your Wu family. Shut up." Before Yingqin could finish speaking, he was cut off by a sharp voice. Zhao Fu stepped out as if he had become a completely different person. The king's aura that he had been suppressing this entire time instantly covered the entire area. Feeling this noble and supreme aura, countless people instinctively lowered their heads, feeling a sense of respect in their hearts. Everyone fell silent. Yingqin was completely suppressed by Zhao Fu's aura, and he was momentarily speechless. Standing by the side, Wu Qingyang also looked quite shocked. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would become like a completely different person. He was filled with dignity and nobility, and he would not allow anything to offend him. In front of him, everything seemed incredibly lowly. This was the king's aura. Wu Qingyang had never thought that Zhao Fu would have a king's aura, and it was many times stronger than hers. "You dare to speak to me like this?" Yingqin finally came to his senses, and he looked at Zhao Fu with killing intent. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this before, as he was the #1 successor of the Ying family. "And who do you think you are?" Zhao Fu said disdainfully as he coldly looked at Ying Wu. Hearing these words, countless people felt incredibly shocked. No one would have thought that the seemingly cowardly Zhao Fu would dare to act so arrogantly and speak to the #1 successor of the Ying family like this. Wu Qingyang had never thought that Zhao Fu would say such a thing. This caused Ying Wu to be infuriated, and he roared, "You men kill him!" A few guards obeyed and walked up, but Zhao Fu coldly harumphed, "You really dare to touch me? Do you know who I am?" His words were filled with dignity, and his aura that made others submit made it, so that the guards did not dare to come up. Zhao Fu completely ignored everyone, and he gave off a powerful king's aura as he walked forwards, causing everyone around him to automatically make way for him. Scram! Zhao Fu came before Yingqin and calmly looked at him as he yelled. Yingqin's expression became savage, and he clenched his fists, preparing to attack Zhao Fu. He wanted to personally kill Zhao Fu to vent his hatred. "Yingqin, get out of the way." However, at that moment, an elderly man's voice sounded out from behind him. It was the leader of the Ying family. The family leader's expressions became serious as they stared at Zhao Fu. They had never thought that a minor figure like him would be able to give off such a powerful king's aura. This was not something that ordinary people could have. The Ying family's family leaders could tell that Zhao Fu was coming for them, so they said to Yingqin. Yingqin could only furiously step aside. Zhao Fu came before the family leaders and looked at them. His cold and dignified gaze caused the family leaders to feel as if they did not dare to meet his gaze. "Who are you, sir?" One of the family leaders asked solemnly. Zhao Fu was about to reveal his identity. As for the consequences of revealing his identity, he could only take things one step at a time. He did not want to make trouble for Wu Qingyang, as she had already done so much for him. At that moment, Qiu Fengzi, who had been coughing up blood, slowly woke up. He looked around and asked, "What's going on?" Then, the Taoist priest briefly recounted what had just happened. Qiu Fengzi immediately stood up and walked towards the Ying family's family leader as he yelled, "You can't kill him. He has a massive king's fate, and he will definitely become a king in the future. He's also very important to Emperor Qin, so you can't touch him at all." Chapter 381. Daoist Qiu, is this true? Does he really have king's fate and is very important to Prince Qin? Just this king's fate was not simple, and this matter was related to Prince Qin. The family leaders couldn't help but ask Qiu Fengzi seriously. Qiu Fengzi nodded seriously and thought to himself, if this person is Prince Qin, how could he not have king's fate? How could he have nothing to do with Prince Qin? Seeing that Qiu Fengzi had confirmed this, the family leaders turned to look at Zhao Fu and smiled. It was impossible for ordinary people to have king's fate, as having king's fate was equivalent to having the potential to become a king. Now that someone with king's fate had suddenly appeared, how could the family leaders not be happy? Since this was all a misunderstanding, there's no need to bring up what happened before. Your name is Zhao Fu, right? From today onwards, you are the 7th young master of the Ying family, and you will enjoy the same authority as the other young masters. One of the family leaders smiled as he loudly announced. The family leader's decision was not only because of Qiu Fengzi's words, but also because they could sense the king's aura from Zhao Fu's body. This aura was something that ordinary people could only look up to and revere, and even people with high statuses like them didn't dare to directly look at it. It could be seen that this person was definitely extraordinary. Following this, Qiu Fengzi confirmed their suspicions. They had never thought that Qiu Fengzi would be so important to Great Qin's legatee, causing them to treat him even more seriously. Right now, Great Qin's legatee was the most important existence in the Ying family, and everything related to him was incredibly important. After thinking about it, they finally made this decision. Hearing this announcement, everyone present was dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, he had been a nobody from the collateral family, but now he had become the 7th young master of the Ying family. His status had gone from lowly to noble. The difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. Those who had mocked Zhao Fu before instantly became pale and felt guilty. Zhao Fu's status was far above theirs, and he could do whatever he wanted to them. In front of Zhao Fu, they were the lowly existences. Yingxi had never thought that the chess piece she had chosen would become someone who could stand on equal footing with her, and she was quite surprised by this. Wu Qingyang smiled happily. She knew that Zhao Fu was not as simple as he seemed. He actually had king's fate. No wonder he had been trying to hide it all this time. Ying Wu's facial expression was extremely unsightly. Now that Zhao Fu had become the 7th young lord, his status must be higher than his. After all, he was just a fake, a shield made by the Ying family for the crown Prince Qin. How could he be compared to the legitimate young lord? Maybe Zhao Fu would kill him secretly. I don't agree, Ying Qin shouted angrily. For a lowly person like Zhao Fu to be able to become a young master and have the same status as him, this was a humiliation. Not to mention that Zhao Fu had been so impudent to him just now. How could he agree to become a young master for Zhao Fu? Qina, calm down. This is not something you can decide. One of the family heads frowned and said to Ying Qin, who was on the verge of losing his mind, If a lowly person like him can become a young master, it'll be a humiliation to the Ying family. I won't be like him, and I won't be like him. Family heads, please think about this. No matter if it's bloodline, talent, or talent, he's the best in the entire Ying family, and he even has a massive amount of fate. If he can become a young master, I'll give up on the position and leave the Ying family. Ying Qin pointed at Zhao Fu as he yelled at the family heads. This made the family heads feel quite displeased. Ying Qin was forcing them to change their minds by leaving the Ying family. Such willful and arrogant actions caused the family heads to once again look down on him. At the same time, they started to hesitate. Ing Qin was indeed the best member of the Ing family, and he had a massive amount of fate. His future would definitely not be simple, and giving up on him would be a great loss to the Ing family. However, Zhao Fu had a massive amount of king's fate, and he could even help Legatee Qin, making him incredibly important. In the end, they decided that they would not give Zhao Fu the position of young master for now, but they would still focus on nurturing him. Even though he would not have the title of young master, he would still have some power. After all, Zhao Fu was incredibly important to the Ing family, and he was even more important than Ing Qin. However, after considering that Zhao Fu was from the collateral family, while Ing Qin was from the main family, they decided to test Zhao Fu first. After the family heads finished discussing, an elderly man stepped out and prepared to make an announcement. Ing Qin was about to proudly laugh. The Ing family was on his side, not this lowly collateral family member. Very well. Since that's what you want, I'll represent Legatee Qin and expel you from the Ing family, another voice said before the elderly man could speak. This caused countless gazes to fall on Zhao Fu's body, and everyone looked quite confused as they thought about Zhao Fu's words. Expel Ing Qin from the Ing family on behalf of Legatee Qin? The other family heads felt quite confused and looked at Zhao Fu, not understanding what was going on. Facing these gazes, Zhao Fu did not mind at all and said, "That's right. I've long since found Legatee Qin, who you've all been searching for, and I've been chosen by him. I now have the authority to manage everything in the Ing family." Suddenly, a big piece of news exploded out. The Ing family's ordinary members looked quite confused and looked at Ing Wu. Isn't he Qin's legatee? Is Zhao Fu the person he's chosen? Hearing this, Ing Wu felt quite startled, and his face became pale. After hearing about the real Legatee Qin, how could a fake like him not feel worried? However, the higher-ups of the Ing family all looked incredibly excited, including the family heads. They couldn't help but ask, "Is this true? You found Legatee Qin?" Zhao Fu looked at the family head and replied, "This is absolutely true. I can invite the prestigious Legatee Qin to meet with the Ing family in East Green." Great, great, great. The family heads quickly agreed in delight. This was something they had been dreaming about day and night, and it was finally going to happen. They would be able to meet with Legatee Qin, who they had been searching for a long time. The family heads could not help but feel incredibly excited, and they didn't want to care about anything else. They just wanted to see Legatee Qin. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Ingshi felt incredibly shocked. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would come into contact with Legatee Qin and become the person that Legatee Qin had chosen. Wu Qingyang looked at Zhao Fu and lightly harumphed. This fellow is hiding too many things from me. Chapter 382. On the other hand, Ing Qin looked quite disbelieving, and his pleased smile disappeared. How could Zhao Fu contact Qin's legatee again? The situation had changed too quickly. The Ing family's disciples in East Green nervously and expectantly walked into a restaurant. They were all disciples of the Ing family. Because the region passageways had not been opened yet, the family leaders were not in East Green, so they could not personally see Qin's legatee. They could only let the Ing family's disciples in East Green meet Qin's legatee. After being given such a heavy responsibility, they felt both nervous and expectant. To the Ing family's disciples, Qin's legatee was a legendary existence. After coming to a room, there were already a few guards with powerful auras standing outside. Sensing their auras, the Ing family's disciples felt quite startled. The guards looked at them and asked if they were disciples of the Ing family. They hurriedly nodded, and the door to the room slowly opened. The Ing family's disciples carefully walked into the room and saw a black cloaked figure giving off a powerful and cold aura sitting within. "Are you Legatee Qin's legatee?" Sensing this powerful aura, the Ing family's disciples' bodies became covered with cold sweat and felt quite afraid. However, they did not forget about their mission and cautiously asked. Zhao Fu looked at them and nodded. One of the Ing family's legatee nervously asked, "Then may I ask what can prove your majesty's identity?" Indeed, they needed something to prove that he was Legatee Qin's legatee. Even though this person's aura was terrifying, they still needed to confirm it. Hearing this, Zhao Fu understood and stretched out his hand, causing the images of the 12 bronze figures to appear as he said, "Can this prove my identity?" Looking at the 12 bronze figures and the massive aura of killing and conquering, the Ying family's disciples were certain that this person was Legatee Qin's legatee. After all, apart from Legatee Qin, who else could have Qin's nation armament, the 12 gold figures? After confirming their identities, the disciples of the Ying family immediately knelt on the ground in fear and said respectfully, "Greetings, Your Highness. Please forgive us for our offense." Zhao Fu did not mind and said calmly, "Get up." Hearing this, the Ying family disciples heaved a sigh of relief. They stood at the side and lowered their heads in a respectful manner. At this moment, Zhao Fu continued to speak with a tinge of anger. "The current atmosphere in the Ying family is really disgusting. All of you have disappointed me." Sensing Zhao Fu's anger, the few Ying family's disciples were so frightened that they knelt down again. Their heads were pressed tightly against the ground. They were so nervous that they didn't even dare to breathe. You should all understand that to me, whether I have a Ying family or not, there's no difference. I originally didn't want to return to the Ying family. However, seeing that the Ying family is the Qin royal family and that I belong to Qin, I can consider returning to the Ying family in the future. However, I must treat Zhao Fu well. He's the person I chose, and he is pure Qin's bloodline. He can manage the Ying family for me. This matter ends here. If the Ying family has any problems, you can directly find Zhao Fu. If I have any problems, I will pass them on to Zhao Fu. You can all leave now." The Ying family's disciples let out sighs of relief and quickly left. Only after they left the restaurant and walked on the streets did they finally relax. One person sighed and said, "This time, the Ying family is going to change. I never thought that someone from the collateral family would be chosen by Prince Qin and be able to control everything in the Ying family. He's so lucky." Another person reminded them that it was best not to say such things in the future. Now that Zhao Fu is favored by Prince Qin, he's already a person above tens of thousands of people in the Ying family. We should be careful. Perhaps we can use him to curry favor with Prince Qin, which will greatly benefit us. Hearing this person's words, the others nodded and felt that he was right. Back at the Ying family, the disciples told the Ying family what Great Qin's legatee had said to the Ying family's family leaders, making them feel both happy and worried. They were happy that Prince Qin had said that he could return to the Ying family, but they were worried that Prince Qin was quite dissatisfied with the Ying family. However, now that they had made great progress, they were able to contact Prince Qin. Following this, the family leaders looked at Zhao Fu and made an important decision, saying, "From today onwards, Zhao Fu will be the acting family leader and will be able to control everything in the Ying family. If Great Qin's legatee could return to the Ying family, he would become the next family leader. This was only natural. After all, Great Qin's legatee had obtained Great Qin's legacy, so he should be the master of the Ying family. Now, Zhao Fu was evidently someone that Prince Qin had placed in the Ying family, and he could completely represent Prince Qin. Adding on the king's fate, he could become the acting family leader. They were doing this for Prince Qin to see and to show how much they cared about Prince Qin. After hearing this, the entire Ying family seemed to explode with disbelief. It had just been announced that Zhao Fu would become the 7th young master, but now he was being announced as the acting family leader. This was simply too shocking. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised that the family leaders would make such a decision. He had only wanted to resolve this crisis. Qiu Fengzi had a trace of a smile on his face, but he had long since understood everything. He stood by the side and didn't say anything. Impossible. How can he become the acting family leader? Ying Qin cried out in disbelief. Zhao Fu coldly looked at him and stood above. Since he had obtained the authority, he said, "Hurry up and come. Carry out my orders and expel this person from the Ying family and strip him of his young master position." After this order was given, the entire Ying family was incredibly shocked. The number one successor of the Ying family had been stripped of his position and had been expelled from the Ying family. It could be seen just how ruthless Zhao Fu was. A few guards walked towards Ying Qin and grabbed him, but he continuously struggled and said, "Let go of me. I'm the number one successor of the Ying family." The guards did not do anything because the family leaders had already announced that Zhao Fu would become the acting family leader. Seeing that the family leaders had no intention of stopping him, they grabbed Ying Qin and walked out of the Ying family, planning to throw him out of the Ying family. Seeing this, the family leaders sighed. However, for Great Qin's legatee, it was worth it no matter what they did. Now, the entire Ying family had fallen silent, and no one dared to say anything. Even the number one successor of the Ying family had been stripped of his position and expelled from the Ying family. So how could they dare to offend Zhao Fu? Chapter 383. And you, I think you're Ying Wu. Prince Qin doesn't need a fake like you, so you can scram now and take back your surname. After hearing Zhao Fu's second order, everyone became even more shocked. Not only was the Ying family's number one successor, but even the fake Prince Qin would not be able to escape. Ying Wu. No. He could only be called Li Wu. He suppressed his anger and resentment, and the humiliation he had suffered today was etched into his bones. He wanted nothing more than to tear Zhao Fu into 1,000 pieces, and he thought to himself, he's just Prince Qin's dog. What's there to bark about? Even though he was incredibly resentful, Li Wu didn't dare to show any displeasure on his face. He clearly understood that if Zhao Fu wanted to kill him, it would only take a single sentence. As such, he didn't need anyone to carry him, and he walked out of the Ying family by himself. After being told to scram like this, Li Wu felt incredibly humiliated, and with every step he took, his hatred towards Zhao Fu grew. Zhao Fu looked at Li Wu, and since they were the same type of people, Zhao Fu could sense Li Wu's hatred. He called over a guard and ordered him to kill Li Wu after he left the Ying family. The guard obeyed and left with a few other guards. Because Ying Qin was the Ying family's number one successor, Zhao Fu couldn't kill him. However, Li Wu was different, as he was just a minor figure. Since he dared to feel such intense hatred towards Zhao Fu definitely wouldn't let him live to prevent future troubles. Sensing the faint killing intent in Zhao Fu's eyes, as well as the guard who had just walked up, many people understood that Zhao Fu had sent people to kill Li Wu. When they thought of this, everyone started to feel afraid, as they felt that Zhao Fu was too vicious and merciless. However, the Ying family's patriarchs were quite pleased with Zhao Fu's actions. Even if Zhao Fu hadn't sent people to kill Li Wu, they would have. Under Zhao Fu's domineering aura that contained traces of killing intent, no one dared to make sound. They all lowered their heads, and the atmosphere became somewhat oppressive. Zhao Fu's gaze landed on Ying Shi. Feeling Zhao Fu's gaze, Ying Shi's heart jolted. Even the first successor of the Ying family had been stripped of his position as the young master and chased out of the Ying family. In that case, Zhao Fu wouldn't object to what he did to her. Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, Ying Shi couldn't help but feel fear in her heart, and her body trembled. She understood that without the Ying family, she was nothing. As long as Zhao Fu gave the order, she would lose everything she had now. Zhao Fu. Wu Qingyang couldn't help but call out to Zhao Fu. She really didn't want to see Zhao Fu act against Ying Shi. Zhao Fu looked away. He had only been dissatisfied with the way Ying Shi had spoken, but he hadn't planned on doing anything to her. After all, she had helped him before, and she was also Wu Qingyang's good friend. The gathering is dismissed. As Zhao Fu gave the order, everyone let out a sigh of relief and quickly left, afraid that Zhao Fu would do something to them. At that moment, Wu Qingyang walked up, looking quite angry. She stretched out her hand and pinched Zhao Fu, saying, "You dared to hide so many things from us, and you even said that you didn't have any fate and that you were in contact with Emperor Qin." Zhao Fu could only apologetically laugh. Ying Shi walked up and looked at Zhao Fu. She now completely believed what Wu Qingyang had said to her before. Zhao Fu wasn't as simple as he seemed, and with her strength, she wouldn't be able to control him. Qingyang, I'm sorry for what I said, Ingshi said apologetically. Wu Qingyang smiled and said, It's fine. I know that you said it for my own good, but it turns out that I was right. Ingshi smiled and said, I know that you're amazing. In terms of judging people, Ingshi couldn't compare to Wu Qingyang. Otherwise, she wouldn't have let go of a big fish like Zhao Fu. After all, Wu Qingyang had asked Ingshi for Zhao Fu. The two women started a happily chat, and Zhao Fu turned to look at Qiu Fengzi, who had been waiting by the side. He thought for a moment before saying to Wu Qingyang that he had some matters to attend to and leaving with Qiu Fengzi. Seeing Zhao Fu and Qiu Fengzi leave, Wu Qingyang felt that Zhao Fu was hiding something even more important from her. Qiu Fengzi first went to his room, and seeing that there was no one around, he respectfully bowed and said, This humble Taoist greets your Majesty Qin. Please forgive this humble Taoist for all of this. All of this had indeed been caused by Qiu Fengzi. First, he had held a meeting with the Ying family, and then when he had used the fate gazing, he had never thought that he would receive such a severe backlash. Now, Qiu Fengzi's body was in pain, and he had coughed up blood and fallen to the ground, causing Zhao Fu to be called a jinx. Back then, Zhao Fu had only just established the Qin village and had come to Holy Light City. Xinru had used the fate gazing on Zhao Fu, so she hadn't received much backlash. However, now that Zhao Fu had awakened the Chaos Imperial Star, anyone would receive a severe backlash. Qiu Fengzi told Zhao Fu everything from beginning to end, and he sincerely apologized to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu hadn't expected that his identity would be exposed when he had awakened the Myrtle Imperial Star. Only after hearing Qiu Fengzi's words did he realize what had happened. Seeing how sincere Qiu Fengzi was, Zhao Fu expressed that he was willing to accept him. After all, Qiu Fengzi had done his best to help him hide his identity and not reveal any information about him. Qiu Fengzi looked quite delighted because Zhao Fu had accepted him. Traces of dragon-like black aura appeared around Qiu Fengzi's body, causing him to feel even more respectful toward Zhao Fu. Following this, Zhao Fu chatted with Qiu Fengzi for a while and understood why the jade pendant that Xinru had given him had been turned to dust. It was because his fate was simply too powerful, and any item that could conceal his fate would not be able to withstand it. Qiu Fengzi planned to make an item that could conceal Zhao Fu's fate so that Zhao Fu's fate would not be discovered in the real world. Elsewhere, a few Imperial bodyguards followed Li Wu out of the Ying family's residence. The Imperial bodyguards wanted to attack Li Wu, but Li Wu was quite quick-witted and quickly hid. However, he was discovered by the Imperial bodyguards in the end and was cornered in an alleyway. You were sent by Zhao Fu to kill me, right? Li Wu said to the guards with a face full of resentment. However, the guards did not reply to Li Wu, and they prepared to kill Li Wu before returning to the Ying family to report to Zhao Fu. Li Wu watched as the guards slowly took out their guns, and he felt the terror of death. At the same time, he felt a sense of powerlessness. His ending was exactly what Zhao Fu had been worried about. Ordinary people would not be able to resist a large family. Just as Li Wu thought that he was definitely going to die, a few black figures suddenly appeared and knocked down the guards before saving Li Wu. Chapter 384. Out of all of the large families, the one who reacted the most was the Li family. The Li family's old patriarch looked incredibly furious and slammed his hand on the table next to him. He had completely miscalculated this time. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would grow to such a degree. Not only had he become the acting leader of the Ying family, but he had also become the person chosen by Legatee Qin. He had the power to represent Legatee Qin in deciding everything in the real world. What the Li family's old patriarch could not believe was that Zhao Fu also had king's fate. This meant that Zhao Fu had a chance to become a king. We should have killed him by hook or by crook. Now, we're raising a tiger, the Li family's old patriarch said as he gritted his teeth. He felt incredibly regretful. Li Baiqing stood by the side with a serious expression. He had underestimated Zhao Fu and had never thought that he would have the same king's fate as him. He had even become legatee Qin's representative, and now, Zhao Fu had become the Li family's greatest enemy. An elderly woman looked quite worried as she sighed and said, "Back then, I told you not to treat them and their mother like that, but you didn't listen. If he could join the Li family, he would be of great help." The Li family's old patriarch coldly harumphed and felt that he had made a mistake. He said, "Now that things have come to this, the most important thing is to deal with it. Not only can he use the Ying family's power, but he can also use legatee Qin's power." Lija did not mind as he said, "Just think of a way to kill that bastard. We can't let him continue to develop. Oof. You're just a good-for-nothing who only knows how to eat, drink, and have fun all day. If it weren't for the fact that you gave me a good grandson, I would have kicked you out long ago." The Li family's old patriarch looked at Li Zhe and felt quite angry because all of this had been caused by him. Li Baiqing said, "All right, Grandpa, don't be angry at my dad. He's right. We have to think of a way to kill him. We can't let him continue to develop, or else there will be endless trouble in the future." However, now that he has become the acting leader of the Ying family, this matter is incredibly difficult. Moreover, this matter concerns legatee Qin, so the Li family has a long way to go. The Li family's old patriarch nodded and continued to discuss with everyone. When the other factions heard about what had happened in the Ying family, they were quite shocked. They had thought that legatee Qin had not returned because he hated the Ying family. They had never thought that he would have sent people to the Ying family and had been secretly observing the Ying family. This Zhao Fu isn't simple either. He also has King's fate, and he should become Great Qin's legatee subordinate. In the future, he'll become Great Qin's legatee's most powerful assistant. The leaders of countless factions sent people to investigate Zhao Fu, so they had to take this matter seriously. The Ying family was one of the 5 great families, and they had the power to change the current situation. Adding on the fact that Zhao Fu was legatee Qin's representative, he had become an influential figure and could influence the future. As such, everyone knew Zhao Fu's name. Li Wu's gaze then shifted to a room. He was confused as to who it was that had saved him. But when he saw a familiar silhouette, he understood what had happened. Back at the Ying family, Zhao Fu had become the proxy family leader of the Ying family. He had moved to a villa with the tightest security, and he had 10 or so bodyguards protecting him. Zhao Fu had also brought the bodyguard from before, and Zhao Fu was quite used to using him. After Zhao Fu became the proxy family leader, countless people came to visit him, but Zhao Fu refused all of them. This matter had finally concluded, and Zhao Fu didn't want to waste any more time, so he returned to the Heaven-Awakened world. Just as Zhao Fu returned to the Heaven-Awakened world, a soldier came to report that they had captured 5 creatures with the title of king. Hearing this, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face, and he followed the soldier to an empty area. There were 5 wooden cages on the ground, within which were 5 creatures. There was a pheasant king whose wings were 2 meters wide, a goat king that was taller than a person, a buffalo king that was incredibly powerful, a water snake king that was 8 or 9 meters long, and a ferocious-looking wild dog king. Seeing these 5 creatures with the title of king, Zhao Fu took out the king's crown and waved his hand. 5 rays of sword light shot into the 5 creatures' heads, instantly killing them and causing them to collapse within the wooden cages. 5 crystalline blood-red threads floated up from the 5 creatures' corpses and were absorbed into the king's crown, causing it to once again recover some of its power. At the same time, the 5 creatures dropped 2 items. One was a silver Great City creation stone, and the other was a very small statue. The statue looked like a child, and it was incredibly lifelike, as if it was a real person. It was as tall as a finger and seemed to be made of jade, and it felt quite warm when held in one's hand. Mini Treasures Boy, a mystical item. After using it, the Mini Treasures Boy will ask you a question, and if you answer it correctly, the Mini Treasures Boy will give you a gift. This item was quite interesting, and after thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to use it. Following this, the small statue said in a curious voice, "What will happen if I put a bird into a pot?" Hearing this question, Zhao Fu felt that it was a riddle, and after thinking about it, he replied uncertainly, "A noob. Congratulations." You answered correctly, and I'll give you a gift, the little boy's voice said happily. The statue turned into an orb of white light, and after the white light disappeared, a black talisman appeared before Zhao Fu. Tracking talisman, a type of tracking talisman that binds to a person's aura. After using it, it will immediately teleport you to a person's vicinity. After looking at the talisman's information, Zhao Fu felt quite delighted. If this talisman was not used well, it would only be able to track a person and disappear. However, if it was used well, it would bring massive benefits. For example, if Zhao Fu used this talisman to bind to a legatee, Zhao Fu would be able to teleport to that legatee's village. Zhao Fu had always wanted to find a legatee so that it would not be too difficult to get rid of them after they developed. It was a pity that even though Zhao Fu had sent people to search for their villages, they had not been able to find anything. If he used this talisman, he would be able to find their villages. That was what Zhao Fu wanted to call Binglin over. There were 5 legatees in the territory that Qin had mapped out, and 4 of them had resisted Qin. There was the state of Wei from the Warring States period, the state of Qi from the 16 Kingdoms period, the state of Zhou from the 5 dynasties, and 10 Kingdoms period at the end of the Tang dynasty, the state of Shun established by Li Zicheng at the end of the Ming dynasty, and the state of Zheng established by Wang Shichong. Chapter 385. The state of Wei was a vassal state from the Spring and Autumn Warring States period, and it had existed for the longest time. It had been established for 907 years, and it had been ruled by 41 emperors. Even after Qin Shi Huang destroyed the 6 states and unified China, only the state of Wei had not been destroyed. It wasn't that Qin Shi Huang didn't have the power to destroy the state of Wei. After all, Qin Shi Huang had destroyed the 6 states, so how could the small state of Wei not be able to destroy it? This was because the state of Wei had been a vassal state of Qin for a long time, and the 2 states had been on good terms for a long time. Another reason was that the state of Wei had already been destroyed by the state of Wei, and only a few cities remained. Even though the state of Wei only existed in name, Qin Shi Huang still allowed it to exist. It was only during the reign of Qin II that he abolished the state of Wei in name. The state of Wei had many famous people, such as Shang Yang, Wu Qi, Lu Buwei, Nie Zheng, Jing Ku. They were all from the state of Wei, and they were all quite famous in history. It was a pity that the state of Wei produced many talented people, so Shang Yang and Lu Buwei belonged to Qin, Wu Qi belonged to Chu, and Jing Ku belonged to Yin. Logically, the relationship between the state of Wei and Qin should have been quite good, but it had joined the Qin Resistance Alliance and stood on the opposing side, which was why Zhao Fu had chosen to make a move against the state of Wei. Zhao Fu gave the tracking talisman to Guo Binglin and reminded him to confirm that the state of Wei's legatee was in the village before using the tracking talisman, or else he wouldn't be able to find the village. There was only one tracking talisman, and it would be gone after using it. Guo Binglin nodded seriously and took the tracking talisman before leaving. After using teleportation channels a few times, he arrived at the region where the state of Wei was. Guo Binglin immediately gathered all of the members of Qin's forces to deal with this matter. After all, this concerned the destruction of a legatee, so they couldn't afford to be careless. Guo Binglin first ordered people to stand guard next to the teleportation channels in the system main cities and spent a large amount of money to bribe the members of the state of Wei's faction. He then gathered all of the information on the state of Wei's legatee, regardless of whether it was important or not. The state of Wei's legatee was called Wei Xin, and he was 25 years old. He had a wife and a family, and he was a decent person. He treated people with courtesy and was never arrogant. He managed his faction quite well, and not only was he respected by the indigenous residents, but he was also respected by the players. He was incredibly popular. Similarly, the state of Wei's power was split into 2 areas. The first was a village encampment, which was mainly populated by indigenous residents. Although Zhao Fu did not know much about it, it was most likely a small town. He did not know much about its population and military strength, but it should not be too weak. It had existed for a very long time, so it most likely had a lot of fate. The second was the system main cities faction, which was made up of players. It was quite easy to find out that there were 50,000 or so players, and none of them were weak. From this, it could be seen how massive Wei Xing's faction was. At the same time, because of Wei Xing's character, many players trusted him, so their loyalty towards him was quite high. He would be able to gather a powerful group of soldiers from among the players. From the information obtained, Wei Xing could be said to be a very good ruler. Unfortunately, he had to face His Highness. The outcome was obvious. However, since ancient times, there was no such thing as logic between countries, and there was only a difference between the strong and the weak. This was especially so in the Heaven Awakened world. This era was destined to be a resplendent and indelible era of kings, and it was destined to be a graveyard for countless heroes and kings. Guo Binglin did not think too much about it. He was only loyal to Qin, and he only had faith in His Highness Qin. Guo Binglin's gaze gradually became cold as he said, "Everyone is an enemy of His Majesty. Sir, we've already bribed a few players from the state of Wei's faction." A black-hooded figure walked into the room and respectfully bowed as he reported. Guo Binglin nodded and followed this person to a dark room. Guo Binglin put on his hood and looked at the players in front of him. Seeing Guo Binglin bring people in, the players understood that he had bribed them, and they gave flattering smiles as they said, "Sir, if you need anything, just give us your orders." Even though Wei Xing was quite friendly and was respected by many, he was unable to control people's hearts. This was especially so for players who only care about profit. In the face of great benefits, they would still choose to betray him. In actuality, it's not a big deal. You just need to tell me whether or not your faction's leader is within your faction, Guo Binglin said. Hearing this, the players felt incredibly relieved. So it was such a simple matter, and they didn't feel any pressure at all. After receiving 100 gold coins for free, they happily agreed. Following this, Guo Binglin started to wait near the state of Wei's faction. This matter was incredibly important, and His Majesty had warned him about it, so he could only do it himself to prevent anything unexpected from happening. A while later, a gentle-looking young man appeared on the street with a few guards, and Guo Binglin started to move. He followed the talisman and locked onto the target's aura. He didn't have to touch the target, but he had to be very close to the target in order to lock onto their aura. Guo Binglin deeply breathed in and acted like a normal person. Of course, Guo Binglin couldn't hide his appearance, as that would arouse suspicion. As such, Guo Binglin revealed his appearance and put on ordinary clothes as he walked towards Wei Xing. The two of them gradually drew closer, and Guo Binglin stealthily took out a talisman and continued to draw closer. 10 meters, 8 meters, 5 meters, just as he was about to draw closer, a round-faced young man with a sword at his waist stood beside Wei Xing. Next to Wei Xing was a round-faced youth with a long sword at his waist. Seeing Guo Binglin walk over like an ordinary person, his eyes flashed, and he stepped forward to block Guo Binglin's path. Guo Binglin felt quite startled and understood that he had been discovered. He stabbed out with his two gray hidden blades, and with a wave of his hand, a gray aura shot towards the round-faced young man. The round-faced young man had long since been on guard against Guo Binglin, so he drew his sword to block. However, the gray aura seeped into his sword, causing him to feel a headache. Guo Binglin had chosen the Soul Equipment set, one of the 12 assassin equipment sets, which specialized in mental attacks. The round-faced young man was caught off guard, and Guo Binglin took this opportunity to go around him and rush towards Wei Xing. The guards immediately blocked in front of Wei Xing, and Guo Binglin coldly harumphed. His hidden blades gave off a large amount of gray aura, and he killed the guards in a few attacks. Guo Binglin once again rushed towards Wei Xing. Seeing that he was only 1 meter away from Wei Xing, a trace of killing intent appeared in Guo Binglin's heart. He wanted to take this opportunity to kill Wei Xing, and he used all of his strength to stab towards Wei Xing. However, Wei Xing stood his ground and calmly looked at Guo Binglin. When Guo Binglin was less than 1 meter away from Wei Xing, a violet light flashed around Wei Xing's body as a dragon's roar sounded out. A formless energy exploded out, sending Guo Binglin flying 10 or so meters. Chapter 386 0G R20 Zhao Fu sat up and looked at Guo Binglin as he said, "Get up. Have you locked onto the talisman's aura yet? Are we successfully locked on him? This subordinate has sent people to stand guard at the faction's base and the system main city's teleportation channels to prevent Wei Xin from appearing in the system base or the system main cities. However, this subordinate isn't completely sure if Wei Xin is in his own town or city." Our hearing that Zhao Fu wasn't very angry, Guo Binglin let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, the talisman had locked onto Wei Xin's aura when he had tried to assassinate Wei Xin. However, Guo Binglin couldn't be 100% sure that Wei Xin was in his village, so he could only rule out a few places. Our Zhao Fu thought about it and decided that he could only rely on luck, so he said, "Use the talisman to check." Our Guo Binglin obeyed and left the room. Towards Guo Binglin's actions, Zhao Fu wasn't very angry. If Guo Binglin had acted on his own without being discovered, Zhao Fu might have punished him. However, since he had been discovered and tried to assassinate Wei Xin, Zhao Fu gave up on punishing him. For it was a pity that it would be great if legatees were so easy to kill. Every legatee had a kingdom's fate attached to them, as well as their king's fate. In times of danger, their fate dragons would automatically protect them, making it incredibly difficult for ordinary people to kill them. Runless One also had a fate dragon or was incredibly powerful. It was impossible for ordinary people to kill a legatee of a nation. R now that Guo Binglin had failed to assassinate Wei Xin, perhaps this would make Wei Xin wary. However, he still had to rely on the talisman to see if he could find Wei Xin. I have to quickly resolve this matter to prevent anything unexpected from happening, Zhao Fu thought as his gaze became unfathomable. Elsewhere, Guo Binglin went to the system's teleportation channel and took out the talisman. This talisman could be used with teleportation channels. This was because the teleportation ability of the tracking talisman was limited, and if he wanted to use a large-scale teleportation channel, he would have to rely on teleportation channels. Guo Binglin had already confirmed that Wei Xin was no longer in the system main city, but he was still unable to confirm whether Wei Xin was in his own town or somewhere else. After all, there were many villages in the wilderness. As such, Guo Binglin felt quite uneasy. He took out the tracking talisman, and the black talisman spontaneously combusted. A black light covered Guo Binglin's body, and in an instant, Guo Binglin disappeared from the teleportation array. In a flash, Guo Binglin found himself in a dense patch of grass. In the distance, there was the shadow of a small town. Guo Binglin was overjoyed. He put on his hood and ran forward. R very soon. As soon as Qin gave the order, all Qin's soldiers put on their equipment and ran to Qin's playground. The people around knew that another war was about to break out. Our soldiers had also gathered on Qin's field, and the scene was quite solemn. Zhao Fu stood on the field and looked at the gathered soldiers before saying, "Let's go." Bai Qi obeyed and gave a loud shout, and all of the soldiers marched out in unison. Guo Binglin could already confirm that the town was the state of Wei, and it was quite powerful. It had a population of 60,000 or so, and there were 10,000 or so soldiers. Now, Qin had 120,000 soldiers, which was twice as many as the state of Wei. It would not be a problem for them to take down the state of Wei. A few hours later, Zhao Fu arrived in the distance and looked at the state of Wei town. This was a small town that had 3 sides, and the walls were made of mountain rocks. They were 10 meters tall, and there were many soldiers standing guard on the walls. The residents got along quite well, and they all had smiles on their faces. Life was quite good, and it seemed that Wei Xin was quite capable. Zhao Fu did not attack for now, and he had Qin's assassins set up an isolation barrier to block all teleportation channels within 500 kilometers. Right now, Wei Xin still didn't realize that his town's location had already been exposed and that he had already rushed over with his soldiers. If he didn't use the isolation barrier, then the 50,000 players in the system would also enter Wei Town. The state of Wei Town already had 60,000 or so people, and with 50,000 players, Qin would not have much of an advantage over the state of Wei. Everything had its pros and cons. If there were too many players in a faction, it would be easy for their location to be exposed, and they would not be united. However, the faction did not have many players and lacked a large amount of fighting strength. However, the second option was more reliable. With the state of Wei Town's strength, it was basically the king of the mountains and the wilderness, and no faction could defeat it. It was a pity that it had encountered Qin. After the isolation barrier was set up, Zhao Fu rode on Little Black and stood at the front of the army. He looked at the villages around the state of Wei Town and waved his hand, giving the order to attack. Now, Zhao Fu had 120,000 soldiers, and he had immense strength. He did not have any strategy, so he directly used brute force to break through everything. After receiving Zhao Fu's order, the soldiers behind Zhao Fu flooded out like a black flood, giving off a rumbling sound that seemed to be able to destroy everything as they rushed towards the villages. The sounds they gave off were massive, and they gave off a dangerous aura of impending disaster, causing birds and beasts to flee. The fastest were, of course, the cavalrymen riding on black forest horses and the orc cavalrymen riding on giant wolves. There were all sorts of races riding on horses, and they gave off a massive aura. However, only the cavalrymen riding on giant wolves were from the orc race, as only orcs could control giant wolves. The aura they gave off was incredibly ferocious. Moments later, the cavalrymen charged into the villages, holding large sabers or spears. As they charged, they swung their sabers at the villagers who were trying to escape or pierced their spears through the bodies of the villagers. The most important thing about cavalrymen was their unstoppable sharpness. Rainy villagers who didn't kneel and surrender were killed. Soon, the peaceful villages became a blood-red hell, and the ground was covered with corpses of men, women, old, and young. War was cruel. Even though it was cruel, if they didn't want to surrender, they could only be killed. After all, they couldn't let them go and harm the lives of their own soldiers. The cavalrymen charged forwards like a sharp sword, piercing through the villages and rushing towards the state of Wei Town. The infantry army behind them devoured the villages like a flood, causing them to disappear in an instant. The cavalrymen continued onwards until they reached the vicinity of the state of Wei Town. Of course, the cavalrymen weren't suited for sieging, so they stopped. The gates of the state of Wei Town were tightly shut, and soldiers stood on the town walls with serious expressions as they held their weapons and guarded the town walls. Chapter 387 HTLC-8FM_R7 RCV2-N- Apart from Qin's legatee, who Wei Xin was worried about, there was no one else who could gather so many soldiers to attack the state of Wei. After all, Wei Xin already knew all of the factions in this region. Wei Xin had never thought that this day would come. It was rumored that Qin's legatee was incredibly terrifying, but now that he had personally witnessed the state of Qin's true strength, he felt quite shocked. There were 100,000 or so soldiers gathered here, and the state of Qin's legatee was no weaker than a system main city. Below the city walls, the state of Qin's soldiers automatically opened up a path. Zhao Fu wore a black cloak and looked quite mysterious as he rode on Little Black. Little Black's four hooves and eyes seemed to be surrounded by green flames, and he gave off a terrifying and powerful aura as he slowly walked out of the crowd. This was the first time that Wei Xin had seen Qin's legatee in person, and he was indeed a powerful and mysterious demon-like existence. At that moment, Zhao Fu raised his head and looked at Wei Xin on the city walls, and he said in a dignified voice, "Wei Xin, since you are a gentleman, your state will not be affected. Because of our relationship in the state of Wei, if the state of Qin revives, I can give you a lordship and allow the Wei family to continue. If a state's legatee surrendered, Zhao Fu would gladly accept. After all, conquering a state's legatee was much more beneficial than conquering a state's legatee. However, in Zhao Fu's state of Wei Xian, there was no second king, so normal titles wouldn't be enough. As such, Zhao Fu decided to give these states' legatees a lordship. A lordship was a title that was higher than a noble title but lower than a king's title. During the Warring States period, those who didn't have the ability to be king could only be called lordship. R Zhao Fu had already made many concessions to the state of Wei. If the state of Wei was willing to surrender, Zhao Fu would treat him well. However, if the state of Wei wasn't willing, Zhao Fu would have to start a massacre. Aha! Wei Xian started to laugh and said loudly, "Your Highness, Qin. In the past, the Wei kingdom had always been subservient to the Qin kingdom, and the Wei kingdom didn't want to continue living like that. When the second Qin emperor abolished the Wei kingdom had already broken off relations with the Qin kingdom. Now, the Wei kingdom swears to fight the Qin kingdom." Wei Xian's voice was sonorous and forceful, with a kind of hot-bloodedness that was extremely provocative. All the soldiers of the state of Wei on the city walls shouted in unison, "We vow to fight the state of Qin." This voice was not filled with fighting spirit, but with the determination to die. This time, it was clear that Wei Guo would not be able to win against Qin. Zhao Fu was also a bit surprised, and he said coldly, "Are you really willing to take everyone in the Wei kingdom to die with you? Why don't you think about your citizens?" We all agree with your highness. We swear to fight against Qin. At this time, the citizens of the kingdom of Wei walked up the city walls with all kinds of iron tools in their hands, including kitchen knives and farming tools. Seeing this, Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and stopped trying to persuade them to surrender. Riding on Little Black, he slowly turned around and said with killing intent, "Begin the attack." Bai Qi looked at the city walls with a cold expression and immediately yelled, "100 Ghost Illusionists, attack!" Hearing this, the 100 Ghost Illusionists suddenly stepped out from the ranks of the soldiers. They raised the wooden staves in their hands and began to chant strange incantations. Then, they forcefully stabbed the staves into the ground. A formless energy spread out, and the atmosphere suddenly became gloomy. Zhao Fu, Bai Qi, and the other generals had already discussed the strategy for attacking the state of Wei's town. Zhao Fu had gathered the soldiers to one side and talked to Wei Xian, but it was not as simple as persuading them to surrender. The 300 Ghost Illusionists had long since broken through to Stage 1, and the dark ghost world they cast could cover the entire state of Wei's town. That was why they had used this method to gather most of the residents and soldiers to the eastern wall. This was the perfect time to unleash the dark ghost world. This was the real killer. Our traces of ghostly Qi started to spread out, and Wei Xian sensed that something was wrong. He wanted to shout, but it was too late. The ghostly Qi spread incredibly quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it had covered the entire town walls and dragged everyone into the dark ghost world. General Wang, General Wei, each of you take 40,000 soldiers and attack from the north and south sides. Bai Qi said to Wang Jian and Wei Liao after seeing that the dark ghost world had been successfully cast. Wang Jian and Wei Liao nodded and yelled out orders. The soldiers quickly split into two groups and followed Wang Jian and Wei Liao to attack from the north and south sides. There were now 8,000 soldiers and 20,000 residents on the east side of the town. The state of Wei's town only had 60,000 residents, and half of them were on the east side, so there was no pressure on the north and south sides. A dragon's roar pierced through the sky, and it could be heard from thousands of miles away. At the center of the ghostly aura, a purple light shot up into the sky, stirring up the wind and clouds. The clouds quickly gathered, and the wind gradually picked up. The entire sky was emitting a noble and ancient purple light. Gradually, the violet light gathered, and a 100-meter-long violet divine dragon appeared in the sky, giving off a powerful might. All beasts were shocked. Our /rafter the purple divine dragon appeared. Wei Xian's body gave off an intense purple light that looked like a purple flame. The ghostly qi in the surroundings gradually dissipated, and some of the people who had fallen into the dark ghost world started to regain consciousness. Our roar! At that moment, a black pillar of light shot into the sky, and an even more domineering dragon's roar tore through the sky. A savage and domineering black dragon appeared, giving off a terrifying and ferocious aura. Ras, the legatee of a dynasty. He knew that the legatee of a dynasty had to be on guard. The savage black dragon was 300 meters long, and after it appeared, it swung its tail and gave off a powerful aura as it flew towards the purple divine dragon. Revan, though the purple divine dragon was smaller, it didn't back down, and it gave off an intense purple light as it rushed towards the black dragon. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a shockwave spread out from the sky as the two massive beasts collided. The clouds in the sky were scattered, and the purple divine dragon was sent flying back dozens of meters. It was clear that the black dragon had the absolute advantage. However, the purple divine dragon wouldn't admit defeat, and it roared as it gave off a powerful aura as it rushed towards the black dragon. The two massive beasts clashed in the sky, resulting in massive explosions that sounded like a natural disaster. Their destructive power spread out for dozens of kilometers, and some mountains were obliterated. Countless trees were destroyed, and sand and pebbles were sent flying. /Ras, the purple divine dragon and black dragon fought. The purple light around Wei Xian's body dimmed, and the 300 ghost illusionists continued to strengthen the dark ghost world, causing the ghostly qi that had been sparse before to become dense again. Those who had just regained consciousness were once again pulled into the dark ghost world. Wei Xian was now protected by a faint purple light, and the ghostly qi didn't dare to come close. Seeing this, Wei Xian wanted to release more of his fate, but two figures quickly rushed towards him. One was a girl holding a blood-red sword, while the other was a boy holding a dagger. Both of them had black marks on their foreheads. Chapter 388. Why? 185? This allowed little Sha and Tuoba Ching to ignore the dark ghost world and attack Wei Xian. As for the Fate Dragon, it was suppressed by Zhao Fu. Tuoba Ching quickly rushed in front of Wei Xian and cried out as she raised her large sword with both hands, giving off a massive wave of sword chi as she slashed towards Wei Xian. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Wei Xian drew the sword at his waist and blocked Tuoba Ching's large sword. His body gave off traces of violet chi, and if he didn't use his Fate Dragon's power, he wouldn't be able to block Tuoba Ching's attack at all. However, Wei Xian's hairs suddenly stood on end as an incredibly sharp blood-red line slashed towards him. It was the little boy, little Sha, who had attacked. Wei Xian immediately retreated, and even though the blood-red line didn't harm Wei Xian, it still cut off a bit of Wei Xian's hair. Wei Xian looked at the two people in front of him seriously, not daring to be careless at all. However, Tuoba Ching and little Sha once again attacked. Army Destroyer. Voracious Wolf. Two loud yells sounded out as a black pillar of light and a green pillar of light shot into the sky. Soldiers gave off different auras and gathered towards Wang Jian and Wei Liao. /Ra, ferocious black tiger and a savage green wolf appeared in the air, giving off powerful auras as they roared, shaking the heavens. Wang Jian and Wei Liao raised their swords and slashed them toward Wei Guozhen. The massive beast looked at Wei Guozhen and gave off a ferocious aura. It mustered up all of its strength and gave off a mountainous aura as it slammed towards the city walls. Boom! Boom! Two muffled explosions sounded out as the city walls trembled. The two massive beasts had turned into siege beasts, and just this attack alone was enough to smash a small mountain. Wei Guozhen's city heart gave off a brilliant golden light, adding power to the city walls. Otherwise, the city walls would have long since been destroyed. Our hurry. Attack the massive beast. The defending general of Wei Guotown shouted loudly. If the two huge beasts continued to collide with each other, it was only a matter of time before the wall collapsed. It was a pity that there were only 4,000 soldiers guarding the north and south sides, as well as a few thousand commoners. It was impossible for them to form a powerful attack, and they could only shoot a few hundred arrows, which did not pose much of a threat to the two beasts. They could easily dodge the arrows, and it was very difficult for them to hit the beasts. On the other hand, Qin's side suddenly launched an attack. Countless arrows rained down on the city walls. The arrows were very terrifying, and they fell like raindrops, killing many people. Because most of them were commoners that didn't have proper equipment, and they didn't have shields or armor, so they could only look for cover. However, Qin's arrows were simply too numerous, and they covered the entire city walls. What was even more terrifying was that the Stage 1 archers and Stage 1 ballistes arrows could even pierce through simple wooden shields. Without any protective measures, they would definitely die. Revan, if they held a sturdy shield, they would still have to muster all their strength to block. Not only was there a huge difference in numbers, but there was also a huge difference in the cultivation of the soldiers. This wave of arrows killed about 30% of the defending soldiers, but Wang Jian and Wei Liao didn't rush to attack. After all, most of the commoners were on the city walls, and if they tried to force their way in, they would be met with great resistance and wouldn't benefit them at all. In other words, if I can easily kill you, why would I fight with you? After all, Qin didn't lack time. As such, Wang Jian and Wei Liao's plan was to use their bows and arrows to kill the Wei Guo soldiers, while using their giant beasts to disguise themselves. The Wei Guo soldiers on the city walls were completely suppressed, and they could only raise their shields or find cover to avoid the arrows. The trembling on the city walls greatly shocked Wei Exan. Even though he didn't know what the situation was like on the other two walls, he knew that the situation was definitely not good. Wei Exan roared and exploded out with an even more intense violet light, and his aura became many times stronger. The scarred violet dragon in the sky seemed to be summoned, and it roared as it tried to return to Wei Exan's body. However, how could the ferocious black dragon let the purple mystical dragon escape? It swung its tail and sent the purple mystical dragon flying more than 100 meters away. Then, it opened its mouth and bit at the purple mystical dragon. The purple mystical dragon could only fight with all its might. Our little Sha and Tuo Baqing exploded out with even greater power as they attacked Wei Exan. Facing their attacks, Wei Exan once again went into a defensive state. Our Zhao Fu sat on Little Black's back as he watched all of this. The king's seal on the back of his hand gave off waves of black light, sending a massive amount of king's power into Little Sha and Tuo Baqing. Kill them all. Seeing how intense the resistance was, Zhao Fu didn't have any other thoughts and directly gave the order to kill. He didn't plan on leaving anyone alive. R beside him, Bai Qi said, "Ghost summoners, come out. Devil summoners." Our 300 ghost summoners walked out from the crowd and pressed their hands against the ground, causing traces of ghostly qi to rise up. An eerie wind started to blow as 2.5-meter tall, savage-looking devil ghosts with 2 horns appeared. The 300 ghost summoners all had Stage 1 cultivation, and the devil ghosts they summoned were all Stage 2. These devil ghosts obeyed the ghost summoner's orders and quickly rushed into the region filled with ghostly qi. These devil ghosts had Stage 2 strength and were ghosts, so they had great immunity to the dark ghost world. Perhaps the dark ghost world was the devil ghost's home ground. The evil spirits that rushed into the nether ghost world began a massacre. The people who were trapped in the nether ghost world stood rooted to the ground like wooden stakes. As such, the devil ghosts were able to easily kill them. Some devil ghosts directly bit people's heads to pieces, while others dug out people's hearts. Some were even more bloody and tore people in half, and the stench of blood gradually became thicker. Or within the ghostly chi, pained cries sounded out. Outsiders had no idea what was going on, and it gave off an eerie feeling of terror. Our hearing these cries, Wei Xian felt both pained and furious. These were his kingdom of Wei's citizens, and they were being massacred. How could he accept this? He roared and exploded out with a shocking sword light, sending Tuoba Qing flying. However, at that moment, little Sha got close to Wei Xian and slashed out with his dagger, opening up a wound on Wei Xian's waist. Blood instantly dyed his clothes red, and Wei Xian felt a wave of pain. He slashed backwards, sending a large amount of sword light towards little Sha, and little Sha quickly retreated, dodging this attack. R. Chapter 389. End. 6. A hashtag 070 V47. While, as time passed, the state of Wei's soldiers continuously died, and cracks appeared on the northern and southern walls. The two massive beasts continuously rammed against the walls, but the state of Wei's soldiers could not do anything. This was mainly because they were still facing countless arrows from the archers and ballistae below the walls. These arrows covered a large area of effect, and their shields were useless. They could only hide behind thick objects, or else they would definitely die. The battle was completely one-sided. This was exactly what the state of Wei had thought. They could not defeat Qin at all. This was mainly because Qin's methods were too brilliant. On one hand, he could use illusions to trap most of them, and on the other hand, he could summon such powerful beasts to attack them. Without these two methods, the battle would not have ended like this, and they would have been completely suppressed by Qin. The state of Wei should have been able to resist, and would not have been so miserable. Roar. The two massive beasts once again roared, bringing with them a powerful aura as they rammed against the cracked walls. With a loud explosion, the walls of the state of Wei finally collapsed, raising a large amount of dust. Our cavalry, get into formation. At this moment, it was time to attack. Wang Jian shouted, and the cavalrymen immediately lined up with serious expressions, tightly gripping their spears. The infantry, shield-bearers, and archers also got into position. Within the ruins of the state of Wei's walls, a group of 500 cavalrymen led a small portion of the soldiers and the majority of the commoners. There were a bit more than 4,000 of them, and they walked out from the collapsed walls. Their gazes were resolute, and their expressions were serious as they got into formation. The atmosphere became oppressive, and there was no sound at all. It was completely silent, and there were no sounds from insects or beasts. It was as if it was the eve of a storm. On one side, there were many of Qin's soldiers, and they gave off an aura of destruction. They were like ferocious beasts that were about to go out of control. On the other side, there were fewer people, but their aura was not weak at all. Everyone's gaze was resolute, and they already had the determination to die. They carried an aura that seemed as if they were going all out, and they were like sharp swords. Today, we vow to die with the state of Wei. A general riding a horse at the front of the Imperial Guard army loudly roared and charged. The Imperial Guard army roared, swearing to die with the Wei nation. They gripped their weapons and charged forward with a trace of solemnity in their expressions. Facing the charge of the city guards, Wang Jian's eyes were cold as he raised his sword and swung it down heavily. Qin's soldiers were like ferocious beasts that had lost their shackles as they charged towards Wei Guo with a destructive aura. Rumble, the sounds of the two armies charging shook the sky, and the air seemed to freeze in that instant. The killing intent radiated out for 10 kilometers as the two human-shaped torrents fiercely clashed. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of countless weapons clashing rang out. Death and blood bloomed beautifully. The Guard army was far inferior to Qin in terms of numbers, equipment, cultivation, and strength. Its fate was already sealed. The torrent formed by the Imperial Guard army only caused Qin's torrent to slow down for a moment before it was crushed by Qin's unstoppable might. The 6,000 Qin soldiers at the front gripped their spears tightly, and like a sharp knife, they killed their way into the heart of the Imperial Guard army. Their spears pierced through the bodies of the Imperial Guard army, but the Imperial Guard army continued to charge forward without fear of death. Qin's torrents swept through the Imperial Guard army, leaving only the corpses of the Imperial Guard army lying quietly on the ground. Fresh blood flowed all over the ground, and the scene was extremely heroic. Not a single Imperial Guard army member retreated a single step, be it the soldiers or the commoners. Wang Jin couldn't help but feel a trace of respect for the Imperial Guard army. Facing the calamity of their country together and dying for their country, this was how the legacy of a country should be. Begin the advance. Wang Jin didn't think too much about it, and started to order Qin's soldiers to enter Weigua town. At this moment, a purple energy barrier appeared, and the city heart entered a self-defense state. This purple energy barrier was a legatee's defensive barrier, and there were even some dragon inscriptions on it. It was many times harder than the city heart's defenses, and it wouldn't be easy to break through. It seemed that killing Wei Xian was the best way to obtain Weigua town. It was the same for Wei Liao's side. After entering Weigua town, they first took control of most of the town, and they also discovered some elderly people and young children. Following this, the two groups of soldiers gathered towards the east. In the east, the Zilong was covered with wounds, and it did its best to defend against the ferocious attacks of the Black Dragon. The Black Dragon continuously used its mouth, claws, and horns to brutally attack the Zilong, leaving behind many wounds on its body. Right now, the Zilong's condition was quite miserable. This was because the Black Dragon of Qin was famous for its battle prowess, and it was a legatee of a dynasty. Moreover, it was supported by countless amounts of fate, and its battle prowess wasn't something that a legatee of a small kingdom could resist. The ground was also incredibly bloody, and there were many corpses with terrified expressions on their faces on the city walls. Blood, organs, and limbs were everywhere, and the pungent smell of blood was enough to cause anyone to vomit. These people had all been killed by the 300 evil ghosts, and there were only a few thousand or so of the kingdom of Wei left. Zhao Fu ordered people to retreat to the dark ghost world. The surviving kingdom of Wei people escaped from the dark ghost world, and seeing this scene, they were so scared that their legs became weak, and they cried out in terror and pain. The ghostly qi dissipated, and Wei Xian, who had many wounds on his body, could clearly see the pitiful scene around him. A wave of pain flowed into his heart. These were all his subjects, people who respected and supported him. Wei Xian loudly roared and exploded out with what little power he had left. A violet aura flame shot into the air, and the surrounding space seemed to sink as an incredibly powerful aura exploded out. Pain, this was your own choice. I will give you another chance. On account of our historical ties, I can bestow you the title of Lord. If you really want the entire kingdom of Wei to die with you, I can slaughter all of you right now, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, old or young. The black-cloaked Zhao Fu stood in the air, giving off an incredibly powerful aura. Black chains danced in the air around him, making him look like a peerless king as he appeared above everyone. His voice was incredibly cold and filled with dense killing intent as he spoke to Wei Xian. Zhao Fu once again spoke, wanting Wei Xian to submit. He had taken a liking to Wei Xian's abilities. To be able to make his subjects and soldiers so loyal was not something that ordinary rulers could do. A powerful and prosperous empire required countless people to build. There were two other reasons. The first was that the kingdom of Wei had a special trait of producing talented people, which could only be activated by subduing them. Forcefully subduing them would not work, and the second reason was because of history. If it was before, Wei Xian definitely would have refused. However, Looking at the survivors, the corpses on the ground, and the elderly and children being continuously brought out by the Qin soldiers, Wei Xian hesitated. R. Chapter 390. Wei Xian lowered his head and thought to himself, and Zhao Fu gave him some time. 5 or 6 minutes later, Zhao Fu once again said, "Are you willing to submit to Qin?" "Your Majesty, no. We're willing to die with the state of Wei." Just as Wei Xian raised his head and was about to reply, countless residents of the state of Wei cried out in grief. Wei Xian paused and slowly turned his head. He looked at his residents, and his gaze became resolute before looking at Zhao Fu and saying, "We're willing to surrender." Following this, Wei Xian knelt on the ground and paid his respects to Zhao Fu amidst the grief and indignation of countless residents. As he paid his respects, the entire heavens and earth seemed to tremble and the weather changed. This meant that most of the state of Wei's fate was being lost. 10 or so traces of violet aura flowed toward Zhao Fu and fused into the king's crown on Zhao Fu's head. The king's crown slightly trembled and gave off a golden light as it leveled up from gray grade to white grade. The violet dragon in the sky howled in pain as its body started to devolve. Its horns, claws, tail, and whiskers all started to disappear. Finally, a 30-meter-long, dragon-like purple python appeared in the sky. Apart from its dragon-like head, the rest of its body was like a normal python. Although the purple dragon had devolved into a python, it was still higher than normal pythons. It could be called a python dragon, lower than a flood dragon. Zhao Fu waved his hand, and the black dragon, which was still viciously staring at the violet python, returned to Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu looked down at Wei Xian kneeling on the ground and said, "Get up. Today, I will give you the title of Lord Wei, and this title can be passed down for generations." The violet python swam down from the sky and returned to Wei Xian's body. Wei Xian dispiritedly raised his head and bowed to Zhao Fu as he said in a hoarse voice, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for bestowing this title upon me." Seeing this, the state of Wei's residents could only accept their fate and put down their weapons and submit to Qin. Zhao Fu descended from the sky and landed on the city walls. Looking at the dispirited Wei Xian, he said, "Don't worry. Today, the state of Wei has pledged allegiance to Qin, and I definitely won't mistreat you. Even though the state of Wei has lost its title, it will still be able to become a top-notch aristocratic family in Qin." When Wei Xian heard this, his expression became slightly better, and he once again bowed. Following Wei Xian's lead, Zhao Fu arrived at the side of the Guo town city heart. As for the protective barrier, it automatically disappeared with Wei Xian's submission. Zhao Fu placed his hand on the city heart and chose to conquer it. A violet pillar of light shot into the sky, and a heavy, sorrowful drum beat suddenly sounded out. Dong, dong, dong. It rang out 9 times in a row, echoing throughout the entire northern continent. All of the factions in the northern continent were once again greatly shocked, and they rushed out of their houses and looked towards where the sound had come from, where the state of Wei was located. This time, it was the sound of a drum instead of a dragon's howl. Unlike when Great Shun had been destroyed, this drum beat 9 times in a row, meaning that a legatee hadn't perished and had instead submitted to a certain faction. What kind of faction can actually make the successor of a country submit? Everyone could only think of one name, which was Qin. Apart from it, there was no other faction in the northern continent that could do such a thing. The leaders of the countless factions immediately returned to the real world and looked at their maps. Soon, they confirmed something that terrified them. Qin had the power to fight across multiple regions. All of the factions in the Midland continent panicked, and everyone started to worry for themselves. If Qin had the power to fight across multiple regions, none of the factions in the northern continent would be safe. On Qin City's Heaven Prayer platform, the violet-clothed Xianru stood there and looked towards the state of Wei. Sensing the massive amount of fate flowing into Qin City, a trace of a smile appeared on her face. Beside the city heart, the 12 metal colossi and imperial ruler seal gave off an intense, blinding light. The nation armaments and clan armaments, which had already obtained a large amount of fate, once again leveled up after obtaining Wei Nation's fate. A formless energy spread out as the 12 metal colossi leveled up to level 4 nation armaments, and the imperial ruler seal leveled up to level 3 clan armament. Back at the state of Wei Town, after Zhao Fu chose to conquer it, a series of system announcements sounded out in his mind. System announcement. The state of Wei has submitted, and all of its fate has been devoured by Qin City. Qin City has obtained a large amount of fate. System announcement. Qin City has subdued the state of Wei and obtained all of Great Shun's legacies. System announcement. Qin City's city heart has evolved, and it is currently 1/30th complete. System announcement. Qin City has obtained 1/5 of the state of Wei Town stats. System announcement. The nation armament 12 metal colossi has evolved and leveled up to level 4. System announcement. The clan armament Imperial Ruler's Seal has evolved and leveled up to level 3 clan armament. System announcement. You have conquered a nation legacy town and obtained 3,000 achievement points. System announcement. You have obtained 100 war points. Hearing these countless system announcements, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. Out of all of the system announcements, Zhao Fu only cared about 2. The first was that Qin City's city heart had evolved. Right now, Qin City was epic grade, and he didn't know what grade it would be after it leveled up. However, the requirements to level up Qin City was incredibly difficult. It needed to destroy or subdue 30 nation legacies in order to level up Qin City. Considering how rare and powerful nation legacies were, it was evident how difficult it was to destroy 30 nation legacies. However, with how difficult it was, Qin City's stats would definitely be incredibly powerful after leveling up. The second requirement was the achievement points. Adding on the King's Ring's bonus points, Zhao Fu's status had risen to count, and he had met the requirements to level up a basic city into a great city. Now, Zhao Fu only needed 3 viscounts and 6 barons to meet the requirements to level up a great city. Now, Zhao Fu had 4 barons and 1 viscount, so he only needed 2 barons and 2 viscounts. After conquering the state of Wei Town, Zhao Fu looked at its stats. Just like the Great Shun Town, it was much better than ordinary gold grade towns. Apart from its basic stats, it also had a special stat. Wei Duo Gentleman. Increases the spawn rate of high-grade residents, increases the spawn rate of various special professions, and increases residents' loyalty. This was the state of Wei's special stat, and it was what Zhao Fu wanted. At the same time, because he had subdued the state of Wei, he hadn't completely destroyed it. As such, the Heaven Prayer platform and some other structures could still be leveled up. From this, it could be seen that subduing a nation legacy was much more beneficial than completely destroying one. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.